You may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Friday, January 25th, 2019. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. And boys, there are a lot going on. I mean, bit by bit, we see the world seeming to grow more insane every day that goes by. But today was especially out there, and there's a lot going on. Phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Sam is in our control room, ready to answer the phone when you call on in. So let's get right on into it. Obviously, the big news of the day, there has been a deal reached to temporarily reopen the government. And the big announcement was originally set for 1 p.m., then it slid to 1:30, and it didn't really start until well after 2 p.m., which tells me there was still some yelling going on inside the hallways of the White House. Trump came on out and he made a speech and basically said Congress is going to ram this bill through for his signature today that will get the government back working, or harassing us, depending upon your point of view, along with all their back pay. But it's only good until February 15th, the day after Valentine's Day. I don't know if there's any symbolism there or not. But the long and the short of it is, this deal has no money for a wall. Trump folded. I'm sorry, there's no other way to put it. I can't be polite. He folded. There's no money for a wall. What he said is, we're going to reopen the government, and I'm counting on the Republicans and the Democrats to come together to come up with a comprehensive immigration reform package. Well, you know, Nancy Pelosi is never going to let that happen. I mean, they'll come up, I'll tell you what they come up with. They're going to come, because I already suggested this. They're going to come up with a package. Oh, we're going to give you all kinds of money for new electronic monitoring devices and more Border Patrol agents and, more of all this background stuff here, but no wall. Because they know all that the gizmos and gadgets don't really impact the flow of illegal immigrants coming to this country the way a wall would. That's going to be the deal they're going to offer Donald Trump. So Trump is saying that if he doesn't get something he can sign by the 15th, he'll either shut the government down again, or he will declare a state of national emergency and have the Department of Defense build the wall. As it turns out, he may not even need to declare a state of emergency. There is the Congressional Research Service. It's nonpartisan, and they've released a paper basically saying Donald Trump has the authority to use Department of Defense resources to build a wall without obtaining congressional approval or declaring a state of emergency. And apparently this is all tied in with existing law that allows U.S. military assets to be used in the war on drugs. And as Trump made it very, very clear during his press conference this morning, that southern border is a major source of the drugs coming on in to our country and just cutting into the CIA's profits. So we have just got to shut that down right now. However, story that is floating around right now is that if President Trump tries to build the wall, either through the DOD or a national emergency, the Democrats are already planning to file lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit to block it, block it, block it, block it. Trump should not have gone along with the compromise today. And I know he's probably thinking about all those federal workers who were missing a second paycheck today. You know, and this has been very, very tough on them. We'll be very honest about it. But he basically caved. And when we get into 2020, do you think the media is going to say, well, Donald Trump was really trying to look out for those furloughed federal workers? No, they're going to say, he didn't get his wall, he didn't do anything. Trump is getting really, really bad advice. And he's just not thinking these things through. Now, the other big news today here, and I'm not convinced it's just a coincidence, by the way. I'm going to give you that up front here. Roger Stone was arrested at his home early this morning. Pre-dawn raid, SWAT-style tactics. Pounding on the door, open up, it's the FBI. They're in their full body armor. And amazingly, CNN was there to get the arrest and put it on TV. Now, the CNN reporter is claiming, this is David Shortell, saying that he just had an intuition to go to Roger Stone's house and set up his camera crew before the raid. It was just a gut call. You know, I just woke up in the middle of the night and I just had this premonition. So I called up the camera crew and I said, get dressed early. We're going to work right now. And they were there for this very spectacular arrest, very visual arrest here. And here's the bottom line. It's not like nobody knew where Roger Stone was. It was his house. And as his lawyer pointed out later on during a press conference, they didn't need to use those kind of tactics. They could have just called Roger Stone and Roger Stone would have come on in. This was done purely to make a video for CNN. Oh, Roger Stone being dragged away. Oh, he's in trouble. Mueller scored another one. And even Greta Van Susteren is saying, oh, come on, obviously the FBI tipped off CNN. At least it didn't end as badly as when the BATF tipped off the corporate media before they raided that church in Waco, Texas here. But of course, yeah. And we're seeing another story. This is out of 12160 about how the FBI agents actually felt a little embarrassed having to do that kind of a SWAT team operation, this pre-dawn operation with assault rifles and everything, to somebody who really isn't all that threatening. Now, interestingly enough, Roger Stone was on Tucker Carlson just last night saying, Mueller is trying to destroy my life. They won't make stuff up about Donald Trump. And in the press conference that followed Stone, signing his bail surety bond and getting out of jail, he came on out and said, I will not lie for Robert Mueller. I will not testify against the President of the United States of America. And he's going to plead not guilty on all these charges. Now, the indictments, it's first of all important to understand, there is nothing in there about Russian collusion. Nothing at all. It's all process crimes. And Mueller is so far out of field of the original scope of his investigation. It should have been shut down long ago, and I'll tell you why. The special counsel statute is very specific. There has to be a standard Department of Justice investigation that indicates a crime may have been committed. Then a special counsel is appointed to investigate that crime and that crime only. And that's where Rod Rosenstein and Mueller have just completely ignored the law. There was no Department of Justice formal investigation of Trump-Russia collusion. Rod Rosenstein simply said, we're appointing a special counsel. Rod Rosenstein appointed Robert Mueller, said, go investigate collusion. And it became very obvious early on there wasn't anything there to find. So Rod Rosenstein told Mueller, well, just keep digging. Go everywhere. Just find something. that we can use to get rid of Donald Trump. And that's what this is really all about. And I don't think it was a coincidence this happened. I think probably the ultimate fate of Roger Stone was discussed with Donald Trump this morning. Maybe that's the reason he basically caved on in, folded up like a cheap suit. I just got an email from somebody saying he'll back down on the 15th. It's been his MO since he took office, and I'm afraid that you may well be right. Trump just basically betrayed our nation into the hands of the liberal Democrats. They've got 2020 locked up. They got globalism and open borders locked up. This nation is finished, absolutely finished. Okay, we're going to do a shout out now to our Honor affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. And you know, you look at all this hysteria over Roger Stone and all the, again, it's all process crimes. The original mandate of the Robert Mueller investigation was Trump-Russia collusion. And if that story about a leaked copy of the final report is accurate, they found nothing. It's a big nothing burger on a gluten-free bun. And maybe that's the reason Mueller did this. Maybe that's the reason he wanted Roger Stone arrested with this spectacular, you know, CNN footage of, oh my goodness, he needs the positive press right now because he's about to deliver up a huge lemon for the, what, $30 million they've spent on this so far. Trying to look good at it. Somebody sent me copies of the indictments. They're vague. They're very nonspecific. And Stone is saying, well, he hadn't actually had a chance to read them. But he says, whatever it is, he's pleading not guilty. Remember when James Comey got on TV admitting that Hillary Clinton lied to the FBI and committed felony violations of Title 18 and nothing happened to her? It tells you how screwed up this country is. All right, let's take a phone call from Joe in Tennessee. Aloha, Joe. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, it's a real bad day for a Trump supporter, I got to say. I'm very disappointed in Trump's loyalty to Roger Stone. It's very sad. I mean, Roger Stone deserves better than this. To have the FBI go in like that with guns ablazing is a disgrace to the country. But really, it bothers me in that does Donald Trump have absolutely no say in anything anymore? I mean, he is the president of the United States.
Well,
then he sends out Sarah
he's the president of the United States, but there are laws that have to be followed. I mean, the orders for the arrest obviously came out of the Mueller investigation. Trump can't simply tell the FBI, don't arrest this guy. That's obstruction of justice, and the impeachment papers would be, all over Congress.
Well, that might be true, but I mean, you think they would do something like that to Bill Clinton's friends or one of Obama's friends? So obviously Trump's dropping the ball, and that the people that are under him have no regard for him, that they would allow something like, I mean, everybody, like you said, even the FBI agents are embarrassed by this.
Well, they were embarrassed at having to be there with the assault rifles and the body armor, for what was obviously not going to be a confrontational arrest.
The other thing is to get your supporters and get your people up for a shutdown and then to cave like this. I mean, it's no doubt you can't paint this as anything but a cave. I mean, if you're going to start a war, a fight, I'm ready. I'll back you in a fight, and then to back down like this, because I think what happened was the shutting down of the airports was too much for him. And I'm sure it wasn't just him. I'm sure all the senators were there saying, well, we're going to vote to open government, and then you're going to even look worse. So I wouldn't doubt. I wish I could have been to hear what really went on in the White House to make him cave like he did, but there's no way of painting it any other way than the cave that it was. It's a very sad day for Trump supporters.
Well, like I said, I don't think it's a coincidence that Roger Stone was arrested on the same morning that Trump made this announcement. And I think it's reasonable that while they were talking inside the White House, basically the fate of Roger Stone came up. Go along with us, reopen the government, don't ask for the money for the wall, or we're going to fry Roger Stone and destroy the rest of his life. And if you go along with us on this, then, Roger Stone can cop a plea deal. He'll get a wrist slap and he'll be out. Things
Well,
like that happen all the
that's
time
very,
in politics.
No, that's very true, but it just blows the whole hope that we've had that Trump could, be a fight against this whole deep state. So I guess it's pretty much, they've won, and that Trump.
Well,
can
wait a minute,
stall.
Joe. You started out this phone call saying that you were disappointed that Trump wasn't taking care of Roger Stone, and now when I float the possibility that Trump really did alter his position on the border wall to save Roger Stone, then you're on his case about he should have stood firm. So,
well, no, I'm just not to. Then he's selling out his supporters for another battle. What I think that I can clarify and how you can support. For instance, if it's one thing to support him in certain ways, but not to give up the farm to support him. To cave on the ball, the shutting of the wall to support Roger Stone would be, in my opinion, wrong. Because what does one have to do with the other? You can support him and still be president. I think his duty as president supersedes, but at the same time, there are things that he can do without surrendering on the border wall to help Roger Stone. He could speak, he could come out and say, this is wrong, what's going to happen. He hasn't even, I think, sent out a tweet yet about Roger Stone. Mr. Tweeter, where's your tweet? So if he did surrender the border wall for Roger Stone, I would be angry about that because I don't think one has anything to do with the other.
Well,
I
I think you still see government from the high school civics class point of view because that's, real politic is a little bit different and it's very dirty. And, we've had people saying that Trump may be caving in on all these things because he's being threatened, with his life or his family's life. These things do happen. That's what really is going on inside the bowels of power, as Claire likes to call them. It's not this orderly, civilized, rational process that we're all taught it is in school.
Well, you're right. I definitely sense a big surrender on that end of Roger Stone. That's my point about him not tweeting about it. So it's very disturbing.
Well, he's been a little busy this morning, I think. Okay,
well,
I'm sure we'll be hearing from Donald Trump about Roger Stone. But there's only so much Donald Trump to go around. He was a little tied up this morning. Anyway, Joe, thank you for the phone call. We're going to switch over to Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha, Dustin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hi, Mike. It still goes back to Trump should have got rid of Mueller because you know what? These people are not going to stop doing what they're doing.
Nope.
So they're going to drag Roger Stone out for months and months and months, and nothing's going to get done. It's like you see what's going on. It's just they're going to keep dragging this out, and then something else is going to happen, and they're going to drag it out till 2020 until they get rid of Trump. That's what's going on.
Yes.
But I think Trump, he can't there's laws, but Robert Mueller he could have got rid of. He put Jeff Sessions as the Attorney General. He could have put people. Mike, there was generals on Fox News that are with Trump.
Yes.
Why didn't he put them in his administration that want to get out of Syria and stuff? Why did he put in, Mattis, Kelly, John Bolton, and Pompeo?
That's who Sheldon Adelson wanted to have in there. That's who Chaim. Certainly it's who Netanyahu wanted in there. Trump, unfortunately, is weak. He can be manipulated. That is going to be ultimately his downfall.
Do you think he's like a one-term president now? Like, do you look at...
Yeah.
Because...
Yeah.
Joe, your last caller is kind of... Like, if you take a couple steps back from these people, it's over. You can't. You cannot step back from these people. You got to step forward because if you look at what happened with the Catholic kid, if you step back like some of the Republicans did, these people will move forward, and they got the media behind them per se as where they can just have a certain and a certain guideline of what they follow and edit out the rest, like the black Israelite, and then the majority of people don't know anything otherwise. So yeah, I think Trump's finished at this point, Mike.
Yeah,
Have a good
I
show,
think
Mike.
so. He's a one-term president. The only question is going to be whether he's actually going to run in 2020 or whether there'll be a primary challenger who will replace him. But at this point, I considered myself part of Trump's base back in 2016. And those of you who were listening to the show back then, you know how hard we worked to support his campaign and basically to oppose Hillary Clinton. But at this point, I'm not going to go through that again. I mean, if Trump is the GOP candidate and Hillary comes back, yeah, I'll have to support Trump again, but I won't be enthusiastic about it. Dustin, got to let you go. Got to take a break for commercials. We've got more callers on the line, and we'll be right back.
The First Amendment in the Bill of Rights limits the government's power by ensuring the freedom of speech and preserving the rights of the people. Every day that passes, our rights gradually slip away. It's time to take a stand and let the government know we're tired of losing our rights. LibertyStickers.com will allow you to express your rights and allow millions of people to see you stand up for what you believe in. LibertyStickers.com carries the largest selection of bumper stickers online, ranging from political to humorous, and is your #1 source for Ron Paul for President stickers. As always, you can find your favorite stickers that protest the war and the president. Don't see what you're looking for? Liberty Stickers will custom make stickers that will let you get your message across for all Americans to see. Go to LibertyStickers.com and see pre-made stickers that will get everyone talking. That's LibertyStickers.com or call 877-873-9626. Liberty Stickers, the world's most dangerous stickers.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Well, they're stealing down on Wall Street and in Washington, too. You know, it makes me wonder, what's a guy on Main Street to do? I've always tried to be an honest, upstanding kind of guy. But I must admit lately, I thought about giving something else a try. Oh, I want to be a pirate. I want to sail the 7 seas, yeah, I want to be a pirate.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. And before we go back to the phones, and boy, the lines are really loaded up here. It turns out Trump has been tweeting out about the Roger Stone arrest and brought up the issue of who alerted CNN to be there, at which point CNN has responded saying, well, our ability to capture the arrest of Roger Stone was the result of determined reporting and interpreting clues revealed in the course of events. That's called journalism. Boy, they're piling it higher and deeper over there at CNN, I tell you. Now, as it turns out, during the press conference following Roger Stone's release from jail, you probably heard in the background this chanting going on, lock him up, lock him up, lock him up. Okay, apparently this was an organized group called Act Blue, which is another Brock Soros organization. So this whole thing was orchestrated from the tip-off to CNN, which they're trying to deny, to this Act Blue showing up and trying to basically shout down Roger Stone. All right, back to the phone. Steve Elkins. Aloha, Steve. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, like you, Mike, I watched that, and I was very, very disappointed in Donald Trump. He did cave in. That's how I look at it.
Yep.
And it was interesting that MSNBC was making a little fun of Donald Trump on this whole issue, saying, and they would actually be accurate in making this call, saying that Trump got his wall. His wall is Nancy Pelosi. And they were kind of chuckling and laughing about this. And now, basically, it was interesting that MSNBC gave a strategy out showing the power of Nancy Pelosi, and they actually spelled this out. They actually said this, that the first show of power by Nancy Pelosi was canceling the State of the Union address. That was her first show of power, and I got news for her. The House chambers belong to the American people, the taxpayers. We built that.
Yes.
She wants to be a gatekeeper, evidently, to the information. And number two was winning the showdown on the border wall. He's become a very weak president, and the Democrats are empowered. Pelosi is empowered. That's pretty much I can say on that. As far as the Roger Stone being led out in handcuffs, there is a presumption of guilt when somebody is being led out of a house in handcuffs, and CNN
Yes.
being right there shows you that the FBI is still rogue, still working to take down this president because they tipped off CNN to show up there with the filming crew. So that's a fact. They're still very much rogue. I'm still trying to figure out why Christopher Wray went on TV today talking about how angry he was about the shutdown. He is still the FBI director, but I'm not sure why he would decide to get some airtime on being angry about the shutdown. I have no clue why he decided to voice his opinion on that right now.
Well, again, it's basically to, it's all theater is what it is, from Stone in handcuffs to Chris being out there. Again, wanting the American people to see the furloughed federal workers as victims. Because right now, considering everything that's going on in this country, most Americans do not have a lot of sympathy for government workers at pretty much every level, whether it's, the FBI or the DMV. It's just money and annoyance and irritation and interference. And it just seems to get worse and worse every year.
Well, I did mention, he did talk about, the very first of his speech talked about getting together with Homeland Security, which is not building a wall. It sounded like he wanted to tweak Homeland Security to find more ways to make it safe that people can't get across the borders, but that's not building a wall. It is definitely, I saw it as a cave-in. I'm very disappointed, and I agree with Dustin in New Jersey. He is, at this point, take a miracle, but he is a one-term president, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think so. It would take a miracle. I mean, there would have to be major transformation of Donald Trump at this point. And I know already the Democratic field for the 2020 election is really crowded, starting to remind me of a clown car. But I think after this, we're going to start seeing a lot more Republicans declare for the 2020 primaries. I think Trump is going to have a lot of challengers, probably even more than he had in 2016.
Last but least, I hope he does not do what Bill Clinton does and start a little war in Venezuela to take the heat off of this whole situation and distract us. I hope he does not do that. Things are getting heated up in that area, and it looks like the United States definitely wants to take over Venezuela and take over their oil and resources and their gold and their natural gas.
Yeah.
So I hope he does not launch a little mini war here to distract us.
I don't think he's even in control anymore, and I'm afraid war with Venezuela is going to be imminent, and I suspect that there are probably already American boots on the ground hidden out there in the jungle. We're going to be talking about Venezuela as soon as I clear all these phone calls.
Hey, thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks an awful lot here, and we're coming up on another commercial break. So again, down in Venezuela, we've got a coup d'etat going on led by Juan Guaido, who is backed by the United States, and it's a very unconstitutional event that he's done. He simply stood up and said, "I am now the interim president." Trump said, "I recognize you." It's ridiculous. We'll be right back after these commercials.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. As most of you know, my regular listeners, I offer energy cleaners for sale at my website. If you don't have a clue what I'm talking about, go to my website, thelibertyman.com. Educate yourself about these marvelous healing devices. We focus on pain mitigation and getting a great night's sleep. Arthritis pain, joint pain, back pain, doesn't matter. Keep in mind, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. Energy cleaners, $285, shipping included to American zip codes. You can educate yourself all about the energy cleaner right there at my website, the patent application, the wonderful testimonials. Be sure and check out the factory-made fitted mattress pads to go with the energy cleaner. Now, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. I have a toll-free order line, or you can order it right at my website at thelibertyman.com. That toll-free order line is 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Thank you.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds, up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AROutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AROutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And before we go back to the phones here, something very puzzling going on here. I'm looking at Fox News, and they've got the co-founder of Home Depot, Bernie Marcus, and they're asking him about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez proposal for a 70% top tax rate. And they're also asking his opinion about Trump supporting the Venezuelan opposition. Now, we're all familiar with Home Depot and their nice stores and everything, but why is Fox News thinking this guy is some kind of an authority? Now, obviously, in the case of the tax situation, he's got a vested interest in opposing it, and I imagine we're going to see a lot of opposition to Alexandria for that particular suggestion coming from the money junkies. Probably they just look at that number, 70%, and they're already going into money withdrawal, and they're getting the shakes and getting sweaty and everything. All right, back to the phones. Todd in Idaho. Aloha, Todd. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, what's happening? So, with the Trump thing and the cave-in, I mean, do you really think, all things considered, that is, I mean, I'm a plumber by trade and I do other stuff, but talk to a lot of people every day. Nobody's ever seen anything like this ever happen to a president, politically or anything. So, in your opinion, do you think if there was not this huge issue that he would not be, or he would be doing better things or more of the clear in the swamp? I really not ever got that invested in him, mostly because he's playing the role of a politician, and they're shadier than the cold side of a lawyer's heart. So for me, I don't really feel like he's done that bad because I didn't invest in him like that. But the left, everything they've done, every single thing that they have done has not worked. Everything has not worked. I mean, nothing they've done. They've accused the guy of everything under the sun. I mean, child molester, that's coming soon, I'm sure. But it's just, to me, what could get done in the midst of, the entire government, against him, essentially, where, this has never been like that before. For me, I think it's good. I don't think that people are going to vote left when it comes to the presidential election whatsoever. How could they? All they've seen is them just make up stuff about somebody.
Well, the advantage the Democrats are going to have is twofold. One, the illegal immigrants, which continue to pour across the border, and even though they are not supposed to be voting in our elections, they are voting in our elections. They vote overwhelmingly Democrat because the Democrats are promising them to take stuff away from the legal American citizens and give it to the illegals, and that's always a good campaign promise to make here. The second advantage the Democrats have is massive, massive election fraud, because Trump had an opportunity to clean up our election system, which is an international joke. And he didn't. At the very least, mandate voter ID on a national level. But our whole election system is totally messed up, and Trump did start an election integrity commission, which literally, when it went to all the states to talk to their election officials, the election officials just locked him out, which tells you it's all completely corrupted. If you have not already seen it, there's a documentary called Hacking Democracy. It was by HBO, and I'm sure it's probably all over the web, and you need to watch it. At least I think it's the last 15 minutes where they demonstrate how easy it is to fool these electronic voting machines. And for those of you interested in the subject, if you go to my main page, to the upper left, right underneath that hopelessly outdated photo of myself, there's an article, How to Have Honest Elections, which describes the system. And what's really interesting is one of the things it has in there is you have a vote count right there at the precinct. I was listening to one of the other shows on RB on the other day where they were talking about, one of the problems we have is the votes aren't even counted at the precinct. They're simply boxed up and they're moved around. And the more they're moved around, the more vulnerable they are to being altered and manipulated. And that's absolutely correct. So Trump missed it on that.
One of the things that to me that blows my mind, we all know, the people listen to your show, maybe some don't, that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was signed or was voted on, and not a single Democrat voted for it.
Yes.
Dr. Martin Luther King was not so much a Republican as he was a conservative person. How come the Republicans, when they're being bombarded with, you're racist, why don't you say, well, no Democrats voted for the Civil Rights Act, and every Democratic run city, state, and county has the highest incarceration rate for minorities?
Well, probably they do, but the corporate
To
media
date.
the
To
corporate
date.
media is not going to report it. I mean, back in 2016, there was actually a short documentary or political ad, I guess it was, that came on out reminding everybody that it was the Southern Democrats who supported the institution of slavery and opposed Lincoln's efforts at emancipation.
Oh yeah, the Dixiecrats, no doubt.
Yeah.
But to me, it just seems odd. To me, it shows that the entire government system is corrupt in the sense to where if the Republicans really wanted to win over the minority people, all they would have to say is look at the past, look who are the people that do this, and look at the future now. The Democrats have only, bamboozled the people, minorities into believing that they're there to help to get their votes. Now that we've had the Brexit, now they have to have illegals because they've bamboozled a group of people. Now they're not bamboozled anymore. They done woke up, and so now they have to get a new group of people. How come no? And that's why they're all left and the right wing belong to the same bird.
Yeah.
And, for me, I look at it like this. I thought Trump was hilarious. I think that because look what he's done for those people. Obama didn't do any prison reform. He didn't have the black community have, all of the stuff that we know, higher employment, yet nobody is running with that because they don't want an outsider. And that's what it comes down to. Because when it comes to 2020, you have all of these liberal Democrats going to run for president. Well, only one person gets elected by the Democratic National Convention. So it's only going to be one person. So to me, it just shows the outright desperation. I remember saying 2 years ago, it's only going to get worse. And from today, it's only going to get worse from here.
Yep.
And we're all seeing this stuff. And the government, I believe, in my opinion, we're only going one direction. And that is the government collapse. Civil war, I just don't really see people out in the street shooting it up. I just really don't.
I certainly hope
where
not.
I
I'm
live
working against that. But yeah,
in
collapse,
Southern
I
Idaho,
agree.
Where we live in Southern Idaho, we have a sheriff-sponsored militia. These people ain't playing around down here. It's kind of one of the reasons why I live here still. I came here because my mother was sick and she had cancer and she passed away. But even in a place like where I live, plumbing, there is a bunch of seed companies around here. Now, as a plumber, I get my invoice to go to this particular establishment. They all have these names, different names on the sign, but my paperwork always said Monsanto. And we have a super huge, we have about 50,000 people who live in the Magic Valley. And we have one of the largest cancer treatment institutes in the state.
Oh, boy.
So that kind of goes to show what's happening here, because I live in nothing but farmland. I actually had to pull over, because where I live, we live right on the Snake River Canyon. And so I had to pull over before I dropped down in it. To me, I'm not worried. I'm prepared. I teach people to be prepared. That's kind of what I do also for a living. And to me, I'm not worried, because people aren't going to be out in the streets killing each other. You're going to have idiots, because we're surrounded by them in our country and in the world in general. But these politicians, they have no clue, because there is tens, hundreds of millions more of us than there is of them. And at the end of the day, numbers win.
Well, I would like to avoid
and that's
violence.
all I have to say. Thanks, Mike. I'll listen to the rest of the show, brother. Have a good day. And
all right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go here. And as I've made clear before, I don't want to see violence in the streets of America. Unfortunately, it's already been happening. Black Lives Matter, Antifa, the confrontation at the Lincoln Memorial, it didn't come to blows, but it looked like it was getting close. And unfortunately, we're dealing with a group that has demonstrated their willingness to resort to violence. I mean, look at how they were rioting after Hillary lost the election in 2016. Getting on back to Trump being an outsider, that was his attraction. Well, now he's going to be seen as an insider, which is another reason why I think he's a one-term president. And I think what it comes down to is that CIA has just sort of gotten used to the fact that they're steering the political course of the United States of America, that they're in control, that they pick the candidates, they pick the presidents, and our votes really don't matter. And Hillary was supposed to win in 2016. And Trump's win was a slap in the face to the CIA and that whole institutional nation. And they reacted towards Donald Trump the way the U.S. government reacted towards Cuba following the Bay of Pigs. Oh, we're going to sanction you. We're going to isolate you. We're going to, 60 years, we're still exacting our revenge on Cuba. All right, we're going to go back to the phones here. Dan in Mexico, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha and buenos tardes from Nuevo Laredo, Mike. Down here, it sure does look like Trump made a big boo-boo today, and I don't hold out much hope, similar to you, that he's going to change course. Is Steve Elkins, is that the caller that he's an Aggie that's living in China or doing business in China?
No, I think
it seems like I remember.
Well, he's another host here at RBN.
Okay. I remember a guy calling in a while back that had been doing business in China for a while. I think he was a Texas Aggie, he said, and I thought that's who that was. But I'm just curious, is there any way that we can determine if Nancy Pelosi is drunk on power or just still off of the Napa Valley?
Well, clearly she's drunk on power. Remember that interview she did in the media a few weeks ago where she got up there and actually claimed that the Constitution puts her on an equal standing with the President of the United States of America. And no, it does not. But I mean, yeah. And now, of course, she was able to stop the President's State of the Union speech. That's an exercise of power. Trump capitulating today. Yeah. Pelosi is just going to, she's going to build on this.
I had so much hope for Donald Trump as the teetotaler that he is that, maybe he would install mandatory breathalyzers in Congress and, half the Democrats wouldn't be able to show up then. Of course, neither would half the Republicans.
Well, that might not be a bad thing right there. But actually, Pelosi, there was an article that came out a while back about how Nancy Pelosi is just using a lot of taxpayer-funded aircraft to travel all around the world. It's supposed to be unofficial business, but there's a lot of fun going on. And apparently there's quite a bit of alcohol on those flights.
I'm sure that she gives the people a real good deal on all of it that she sells us.
All right, anything else?
Mike, I sure appreciate you taking the call. No,
all right, thanks an awful lot.
Down here in the Nuevo Laredo, man.
Okay, then we're going to go to Joe in California. Aloha, Joe. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello there, Mike. Based on what the previous caller said, the caller before the last caller about the prison reform, I've got a great new hat that President Trump can introduce for the campaign. It would be MAPGA, make our prisons great again.
I don't think so. I think he needs to stay with the Make America Great Again hats, if for no other reason than we're going to start giving all the liberals heart attacks. Because every time they see a hat, they freak out and they go, whoa, and by 2020, enough of them may die where, we can take the nation back from the liberals.
Right, but what I'm saying is President Trump has nothing to run on. He's basically Jeb Bush. Tax cuts, less regulation, and prison reform. He didn't give us the wall. He didn't pull us out of the wars. He's a massive disappointment. Mike, I met these two fellows. They both were wearing the Make America Great hats on a few days ago at the local Walmart, and I was talking to them about Trump, and they are still high on Trump, and they said, we have to give him time on the wall, and they voted for him not on ending the wars. I really believe this. Most Trump voters couldn't care less about these wars. It's all about the wall and reindustrializing America. If they go to war in Venezuela, they will be cheered on. Trump will be hailed as a hero. They could have a parade down Fifth Avenue in New York or wherever in New York City. These Trump supporters will be cheering this war in Venezuela, guaranteed. And so I do look for that as being imminent. But Mike, I wanted to ask you being an expert.
Well, hang on. Before I want to respond to that. When you have a political base for anybody, whether it's Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump, you're going to have a small group of them who are basically part of a personality cult, where they're just caught up with their imagined association with this personality who is very wealthy or powerful or influential or beautiful, and that it's a cult. And that figurehead at the top cannot be seen to do any wrong, because if they are, then the supporter has to admit they were wrong to support them. And that's where a lot of fanaticism will come out of. But I think a lot of the people who voted for Donald Trump did so following a rational, reasonable, analytical process. I know that was what I did. And I'll be honest, if Bernie Sanders had gotten the Democratic nomination, I would have supported him instead. But
you're a more sophisticated voter than most of these Trump voters. Let's be honest, Mike. Most of the American electorate don't know their elbow from their you-know-what.
Okay. Well.
But, Mike, quick question, though.
Yeah.
You've been going to the gold in Venezuela. Do you think also another reason for this imminent attack on Venezuela, is to grab their gold? Because a lot of their gold, I heard on Richie Allen, is sitting in England.
Yes.
In vaults in England, because I think the Venezuelan government took out loans from Germany, so this gold was set aside as collateral in order to buy food from Turkey. So very convoluted transaction. But do you think, like as in Libya, the U.S. will just seize this gold to replenish their gold stocks in New York?
Oh, yeah, that's definitely a big part of it. Now, the fact is that Venezuela had paid off their loans to Germany, and that gold was supposed to be that gold was supposed to be returned to Venezuela. Great Britain is sitting on it, claiming they're doing so to avoid money laundering and corruption. And the other issue, of course, is that Venezuela just signed a contract or an agreement with Russia to allow Russia to mine gold inside Venezuela. And that may have prompted the panic button. We need that gold. We've got to bail J.P. Morgan and the New York Fed out of trouble for selling all the other people's gold out the back door. Anyway, listen, Joe, we're going to let you go. We got to take a break for commercials. We'll be back to talk more about Venezuela.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
35 million people in the United States suffer with debilitating migraines. If you or a loved one are one of them, you need to know about MigraLief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist that formulated and patented the MigraLief migraine formula. MigraLief is a non-prescription dietary supplement recommended by neurologists, pharmacists, and pediatricians to address nutritional deficiencies in both adults and children over 2 with migraines. Try MigraLief for 3 months and see the powerful difference it can make in your life, or get your money back, no questions asked. Go to MIG911.com or call 800-MIG-7354. You can change your life today.
So if you suffer from migraines, don't wait. Call 800-MIG-7354. That's 800-MIG-7354. Or visit MIG911.com.
Did you know that neither the American Medical Association nor the American Bar Association were established to benefit the American people? Have you recognized that in our country, healthcare has little to do with health, and that our court system has nothing to do with justice? The priests of both medicine and law have been incentivized to implement a dark agenda on behalf of the Bilderbergers and their ilk. To protect ourselves and our progeny, we need to take a much closer look at how these two giant industries really work. Join me, Al Whitney, on In Defense of Humanity, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Central, as we expose the matrix and learn how not to consent to our own destruction.
Extendivite, made from garlic, cayenne, bilberry, hawthorn, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle, feeds our body with the nutrients we need to keep healthy. Just listen to what Arthur had to say.
I was just calling to tell you what a great product you have. I had used this about 10 years ago after I had congestive heart failure. And it fixed me up and got me going for the last 10 years. Lately, I've been having heart trouble again, so I placed another order because this was the only thing that ever worked. I just wanted to let you know that you have a great product. Thank you very much.
Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And we're going to talk a little bit about the coup in Venezuela and what looks to be the opening moves in yet another war for your young children to die in. And basically, it began. It's been in the planning stages for a very, very long time. The United States government has coveted Venezuela and its oil and its gold and whatever else is in there for a very, very long time. Hugo Chavez was seen as a political threat because of his tendency to spend the wealth of Venezuela on the Venezuelan people. And that, of course, was giving people in other countries bad ideas. And so the U.S. has always kind of wanted Venezuela back in the fold of capitalist nations where the people are working really, really hard and the elites are getting very, very rich. So this U.S.-backed president of the National Assembly, Juan Guaido, swore himself in as the interim president Wednesday morning, at which point Donald Trump recognized the illegal self-proclaimed president. The same was done by the Secretary General of the Organization of American States, Luis Almagro, who has instigated attacks against Venezuela and the Maduro government here. But basically, this could lead to a civil war. The military is still very much on the side of Maduro. Most of the government is still with him here. But the United States is basically pushing this unelected opposition leader as the new head of the country. And Venezuela is a democracy. Guaido has never run for president. He's never been a presidential candidate. He's not elected. And yet they're pushing him in and saying, we recognize him as the new president because we're bringing democracy to Venezuela. No, it's the same thing we saw in Iran in 1953. It's the same thing we saw in Chile in 1973. A legitimate elected ruler is going to be forced from power and replaced with an unelected tyrant. That's what's going on here. Now, as I mentioned before, one of the reasons that the button may have been pushed on Venezuela right now was that only like I think 2 weeks ago, Venezuela came to an agreement with Russia to allow Russia to mine gold in Venezuela. And that may have sent up the flares here because right now the United States government needs a lot of physical gold. And they need it because some of our main financial institutions, like the New York Fed and J.P. Morgan, not to mention Fort Knox, have sort of been playing fast and loose with other people's gold. And we talked about it, and we documented it on History Channel's America's Book of Secrets, The Gold Conspiracy. And in the whatreallyhappened.com link for this story, where it says we need to replace all that gold, that link goes to the Vimeo video of the gold conspiracy. And it's all been confirmed. It's all been confirmed. That's why when Germany wanted to repatriate their gold, all of a sudden, oh, the New York Fed, they panicked. All right, we got to take a break for station identification. We got a caller waiting on the line. We'll be back with hour number 2 after these few words.
Don't regret growing old. It's a privilege denied to many. Heart disease is taking our youth from us. Young people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond are dying needlessly. One of the hardest messages I've ever had to deliver is to convince people that something natural like Extendivite should be taken as a preventative measure. I'm sure you heard an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Extendivite is that ounce. Take Extendivite for 1 year and see what your doctor has to say and how much better you feel. Herbs take time to address the problem. It took years of life to have a problem. Give Extendivite 1 year to fix the problem. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or visit us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Let's take a phone call, then we're going to get back to Venezuela. Jim in Illinois, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Michael. Do you know what TRUMP stands for?
I'm sure you will enlighten us.
Trump retreats under Madam Pelosi.
Oh, good one. Good one. Boy, that's a bumper sticker right there.
Yeah, and he's definitely retreated, and I think he's been intimidated. It just shows that she has more balls than him. That's all I can say.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. But yeah, he caved again, just like he caved on his Syria withdrawal. He's a weak leader. And yeah, I mean, his presidency is a disaster. And I'm sorry, but he's made mistake after mistake after mistake, starting with not cleaning out the entire executive staff and replacing them all with people he knew not to be compromised by deep state connections. That was his first and biggest and fatal mistake.
Well, also, the fact is, he's very naive. That's the biggest problem.
Yes.
Very naive.
Yes.
So, well, Michael, I'm going to let you go. You and Claire have a nice weekend. Take care and God bless.
Thanks an awful lot. Thanks an awful lot here. All right, so we're still going on here where Maduro's government in Venezuela has ordered all U.S. Diplomatic personnel to leave. Trump is saying they no longer recognize his authority, so the diplomats are going to stay, making them targets for a potential false flag, sacrificial lambs, you know, the typical bloody shirt you use to justify an invasion. But all the non-emergency embassy staff and families are being evacuated, which I think was a really good thing. And of course, the United States is saying they will maintain diplomatic relations with Venezuela because President Guaido has invited our mission to remain in Venezuela. So that was basically it. Guaido stands up, says, I'm the president. Trump says, yes, you are. And they're off and running on this thing. Trump may have set a bad precedent. Looking at the constitutional structure of Venezuela, the president of the National Assembly, okay, is constitutionally the exact same position as our Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. Both Pelosi and Guaido are number 2 in the succession to the presidency. So what Trump has just put his stamp of approval on is the equivalent of Nancy Pelosi standing up, swearing an oath, declaring herself to be the interim president of the United States of America and working to kick Trump out, which we know that one way or the other she's working to do that anyway. What Nancy Pelosi secretly dreams about is that something happens to Trump and Mike Pence all at the same time that would make her president. All right, we're going to take another phone call. Mo in Florida. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Mike, thanks for my call here. Going along with the topic here on Venezuela, I was just looking at the internet statistics, and in 2001, after when the Trade Center happened, it was 458 million users. And if you go now, there's 4 billion people that are connected to the internet. And my point is this: that you remember a couple years ago, when they were going to try to attack Syria, and the first time the military basically stood down and said, "No, we're not going to do that." Do you remember that?
I remember that.
Yeah, that was very unusual, because I'm your age, and I don't remember them ever doing that before, of any kind of small incursion or war. It kind of blew me away. But, I think this is going to happen, Mike, unless they shut the internet down, which would make it even worse. There's no way we're going to. Now, one American soldier gets killed in Venezuela, and this party is over, because people they woke up in 2001. Like I said, there was only 400-something million people on the internet. They're not going to get away with this crap. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, Mike, because there's a lot of stupid people that don't, that aren't awake. They don't listen to shows like yours. There's a lot of them, but there's a lot that do. If you go on Zero Hedge or any of those websites like that, I'm not saying they're perfect. They all got the game. They know 90% of the people know what's going on. And if they get somebody on there that's trying to, say these wars are good, and that doesn't even happen anymore. So how are they going to fool young American soldiers, like you said, to lose important parts of their body? How are they going to come? They can't do it. Mike, if they do, deserve it. Am I crazy? Or,
well, I think you're not appreciating the
way.
subtleties of the situation. First of all, we have a government that is totally unconcerned with what we, the people, are thinking, because the election system is such a fraud. Second, if you remember from yesterday, they're reevaluating the selective service system, and they're talking about having young ladies register for the draft. And at some point, there's going to be a draft, because we've got wars going on all over the planet. Recruitment numbers are down. But one of the ways they continue to be able to recruit young men into the military, and young women into the military, for one thing, they're lowering all the standards. Second, they're offering, very generous enlistment bonuses. And the other issue is they're targeting areas that have been hit hardest by our downturn economy. To just go on in there and say,
Mike, I got a good sign for when the women sign up. It'll be put on your masculinity.
That's a good one. All right. Well, listen, Mo, I'm going to let you go, and we're going to switch to Mark in North Carolina. Mark, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
How you doing, Mike? Mike, I don't know. I think Trump is just getting worse and worse with the man. I mean, he's like a bowl of jelly. I mean, today with this indictment of Roger Stone, if I was Trump, if I was the president, I'd give a press conference right afterwards and say, okay, Mr. Stone is pardoned along with Julian Assange.
Okay,
and
Mark,
I'm ordering
Mark,
an investigation.
Mark, are you using a cordless
Yeah,
handset, because your signal's going in and out?
Hold on a second. Is it any better now?
It seems to be.
Okay. I would order the Attorney General to appoint a special prosecutor immediately to investigate Mueller and all the dirty rats that he's got working for him. The guy is no better than an SS Gruppenführer. That's what he acts like.
Yep.
I mean, the guy is no good. And on top of that, with Trump with Venezuela, what does he think he's doing? How many wars are you going to get us involved in? You're right. They're going to have a draft if they do it. They have a draft, this country will be ripped apart. That'll be it. It's finished. Can you imagine that the Generation Z and the millennials having to, being forced into the military? There's going to be what's going on with the yellow vest there in France will look mild. They'll tear this country apart. He's got to get control. The man is a bowl of jelly, Mike. That's all he is.
Unfortunately, you're right. You're absolutely right here. And, of course, you need to understand something up front. Venezuela was not Donald Trump's idea. He has not created the Venezuelan war. It was created for him. He's certainly enthusiastic about going along with it. I'm sure that John Bolton was out there saying, Maduro's a dictator. Maduro is terrible. He passes wind in elevators. He tap dances barefoot on shag carpet, and we got to take him out of power.
Can I ask you something, Mike?
Yeah.
If it wasn't for sanctions and stuff put on to Venezuela, would they really be in a bad situation you're in now? Or is it pretty much because of the sanctions? The sanctions aren't working.
Yeah, the sanctions. Before the U.S. declared economic war on Venezuela, it was actually one of the wealthiest nations in South America. It had a very high per capita standard of living, and a lot of it had to do with the Bolivarian government, which was dedicated to the fact that the wealth of the nation belongs to the people, and we're going to make sure that the people get it, which is an idea that money junkies around the world absolutely hate. They don't think you should have any money. It should all be theirs.
Well, how come the sanctions aren't working on Russia? As a matter of fact, they're getting much more they're getting wealthier now. If they're very close to being surpassing Germany in gross domestic product.
Well, the sanctions are breaking down and the tariffs are breaking down because the rest of the world are finding ways to get around them by dropping the use of the U.S. dollar. That, of course, is counterproductive because it is, the U.S. dollar hegemony that the U.S. Has weaponized to try and enforce its will on other countries. All of this tariffs and sanctions and the rest of it, not to mention the military aggressiveness, the United States is being isolated from the rest of the world. I know that politicians in Washington, D.C. go to sleep at night dreaming that America rules the rest of the world, but no, we're at a point right now where we're having trouble just taking care of ourselves.
Why do you think Venezuela then is in such a terrible straits as they are, like 1,000,000% inflation and, people starving?
Well, again, it's because of the economic warfare, and it's forced Venezuela into this huge amount of inflation just to try and stay ahead of the mounting debt. Because that's one of the things when your nation gets into really serious debt, you try and inflate the debt away. You owe that private central bank, so many trillions of dollars. Well, you just print up so many trillions of dollars, you give it to the bank and say, see, you've been paid off.
Right.
Unfortunately, when you're in a situation where the private central bank is printing up the money, they can print it up to pay off the old loans, but all it is new loans, and it just keeps on building and building. And meanwhile, all that money is in circulation, and when you have too much currency chasing around too few goods and services, you're going to see inflation happen on a major scale.
Okay, I see. All right, I'm just wondering why that's not happening in Russia. With all the sanctions they got on them, they seem to be doing actually better than ever.
Well,
right now.
In Russia, their central bank, although it's still privately owned, it is under government control. And the government is managing Russia's public currency as a public utility, and they're managing the economy to serve Russia. And as a matter of fact, we had an article out earlier this week where Russia has succeeded in paying down its foreign debt to a record low. Now, you contrast that with the United States, where we have a privatized currency that serves the bankers and an economic system that's all about making everybody at the top of it very, very rich.
Okay, but couldn't Venezuela do the same thing? Or maybe because they're just all, or what?
Well, they were trying to do exactly the same thing, and that's why they came under attack. And they were all kind of... the United States sort of used banks as a weapon. They would go down, and they did this to a lot of countries in South America, not just Venezuela. They would go on down, and they would convince these governments to take out loans for agricultural development. And, hey, when you harvest the crops, you can pay us back with the interest, and everything will be fine. Then intelligence agencies operating on behalf of the bankers and the U.S. government would go on in and engage in things like industrial and crop sabotage so that those countries couldn't pay those loans back and they were left buried in ever-steepening debt. It's a very dirty trick, but that's how the banks were weaponized. And most South Americans understand that's what was done to them, and they're very angry about it.
I say this too, Mike. One of these days, I'm afraid we're going to pay for all of this. A country can't keep on getting away with this. I don't know what's happened to the United States. It's just that, like I said, we're just, out of control and just got bad government. And unfortunately, the people seem to be too stupid or too ignorant to understand it. So I just don't know. I'll leave it at that, Mike. I'll take your answer up here. Okay?
All right, thanks an awful lot. It's not a question of people being stupid. I think most people are really aware of what's going on. It's just most people are afraid to stand up and say anything or do anything out of personal fear, and that unfortunately is very understandable. The other thing that you need to remember, and I think Mark's call illustrated it, a lot of people who know what's going on, they think they're the only ones who know, that everybody else around them is oblivious, and that's not true, which is why, talking to your friends and neighbors is a good thing. You'll find out they're pretty much on board. They're clued in. They know what's going on here. But I see this nation as headed for a Soviet Union-style collapse. It has just become irredeemably corrupt. We're seeing this incredible faction fighting. Nancy Pelosi is going to walk away from Trump's capitulation today thinking that she's now in charge of the country. And for all we know, she may well be. All right, we're going to do a shout out now to our Honor affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. Getting on back to Venezuela, there, of course, is opposition to what the United States is doing, cropping up all over the world. The U.S. is trying to round up a few of its allies to come on in and say, oh yes, we recognize the new government of Venezuela. And apparently Mike Pompeo was giving a press conference over at the, the Organization of American States. And there was a protester coming by saying, don't support a coup in Venezuela. And apparently a lot of those in attendance applauded the woman dressed in pink. And Pompeo even gave us a slight smile. Now, security removed the woman, and she was shouting, coups create more violence, which is absolutely true about that. Another article here, this one coming on out from Global Research up in Canada. The coup in Venezuela must be resisted. Venezuela has elections. Juan Guaido has never been a presidential candidate, despite massive CIA opposition funding and interference over years. As big oil tries to regain control of the world's largest oil reserves, Nicolas Maduro was democratically reelected in 2018 as president of Venezuela. So there's now a coup d'etat underway. It is illegitimate. Now, Hugo Chavez revolutionary politics were founded on two very simple tenets. One, people ought not to be starving in dreadful slums in the world's richest oil state. And two, the CIA should not be allowed to control Venezuela. And that's why Chavez was targeted. All right, we're going to go ahead and take another phone call. Mark in New York, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, aloha. Nice to talk to you again. With the wall, I was thinking, I had actually read in a book, just to pretend, recently I heard this story about, these two doctors tested these two monkeys in side-by-side cages, and if they passed the doctor a stone, they would get a cucumber. So the test was give one a cucumber and give the next one a grape. And the monkeys knew the difference, and they got really pissed off. And the same thing went for dogs and birds that they tested. So these social related animals know the difference between fairness. And that's why I bring this up about, evolution and how we've gained things and developed these traits across various species. So when it comes to the wall, I was just thinking it certainly would be Americans, I think, know what fairness is. And I was thinking about back during the election, and I was watching the Bannon videos that are all over YouTube, and they're great. The one with Lanny Davis, he smoked Lanny Davis. Lanny Davis sounded like a jerk. He's bringing up Statue of Liberty, but he also, the Euronews one, there's one with The Economist, and he's got a few out now. I've watched him a few times, and I think that's the issue. I think the media makes it a personal issue, like it's Trump's issue. It's his. It's about him, and almost like the way it was always about Obama. But it's not. It's really about representing it. But on a funny note, though, I was thinking about how you're saying, like, put crocodiles in the Rio Grande on the wall, and I was thinking maybe cover the land with coyotes. And I thought, why not, like, using drones with lasers, but even better, why not this paintballs, paint pellets, and stink bombs? So if you come near the wall, the vehicles are going to get pelted with paints, right? And even the stink bombs would be something that if wherever they go, they're going to smell, so they can't. So they're going to be found out when the trucks drive back into town. They'd have paint all over them, so at least they'd know. It'd be like hard to get off the paint, like maybe for a month, so you can't wash it out of their hair. I would hope that paint pellets wouldn't hurt the kids or something. But I was thinking maybe
those paint pellets can sting. Anyway, we got to take a break for commercials. Thank you for the phone
Yeah,
call,
sure.
Mark. We'll be right back.
How healthy are your arteries? Deteriorating circulation has a number of early warning signs. High cholesterol, high blood pressure, fingers and or toes often go cold, arms and or legs often go to sleep, sharp diagonal crease in the earlobe, short walks cause cramping or pains in legs. Memory is not as good as it used to be, ankles swell late in the day, chest pain after physical exercise or emotional stress. If you experience even one of these symptoms, your circulatory system is crying out for attention. Extendivite is a natural solution to help improve your overall health. Extendivite is not your average heart tonic. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or find us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And apparently Mike Pompeo has just named Elliot Abrams as his new special envoy for Venezuela. And Pompeo is saying Abrams will be in charge of all things related to our efforts to restore democracy in Venezuela. Now, if you think you're familiar with the name, you need to remember Elliott Abrams pled guilty to withholding information from Congress about the Iran-Contra affair, which involved all of that gun and drug running out of Arkansas under then Governor Bill Clinton down to Nicaragua to arm the Contras against the Sandinistas, still messing around there. And so, yeah, it's another one of these deep state operatives that are out there who are going to be mucking about down there in Venezuela. So it's like we've made absolutely no progress at all since the days of Iran-Contra. Bloomberg is reporting that Nicolas Maduro's government was once again trying to pull $1.2 billion worth of gold out of the Bank of England. And apparently it is now surfaced that the Bank of England's decision to deny Maduro officials withdrawal came after top U.S. officials, including Mike Pompeo and John Bolton, lobbied their British counterparts to help cut off the regime from its overseas assets, which is a polite way of saying we're not going to let the government of Venezuela have their own money. So it's ugly. And of course the corporate media is out there. He's a dictator. No, he was elected. Remember when they were calling Assad a dictator? He was elected. The ones that get put in afterwards, they're the dictators. Anyway, Iran is backing Venezuela's President Maduro and is rejecting the idea of U.S. interference, probably having felt so much of it themselves. Again, Mike Pompeo has called on Maduro to hand over to Guaido, who is currently supported by the European Union, Canada, Mexico, Colombia, Peru, Argentina, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Guatemala, Honduras, Panama, and Paraguay. Maduro has the backing of Russia, Iran, Turkey, Uruguay, Cuba, Syria, and Palestine. Now, you probably noticed there's a lot of countries in South America want Maduro out. That's because they see Venezuela as regional competition, and they want it weakened. The same reason that Israel wanted Iraq smashed up and wants Iran smashed up. You see, for a leader of a nation, it's really, really hard to actually build that nation up into something better. It's really just a lot easier to fling a few bombs over the borders and bomb the other countries down to a lower standard of living than what you have. And then you can tell your people, see, we've got the best lifestyle in the area. That's what's going on here. So who else is getting involved on this? Apparently, Debbie Marcusal Powell is going to be in charge of humanitarian aid to Venezuela. Donna Shalala is going to be looking at how to block any more weapons and supplies to Maduro. And Debbie Wasserman Schultz is going to be taking on President Vladimir Putin. In other words, the congresswoman who fixed the Democratic primary for Hillary Clinton is now going to fix democracy in Venezuela. And I'm sure that's going to come as a tremendous comfort to the people of Venezuela. All right, turning over to other parts of the world. Apparently, there are rumors there's going to be another staged false flag chemical weapon attack in Syria. And this has been going on going back to 2013. 5 years they've been doing this, and every time it's a fabrication. And again, it doesn't make sense. Assad has all but won the war. He doesn't need to use chemical weapons, and he knows chemical weapons are exactly what the United States would use as an excuse to turn around, come on back in and say, oh yeah, we've got to get Assad. What do I mean by turn around? I mean, the withdrawal is over. Trump's promised withdrawal isn't happening. John Bolton has basically seen to that. Now, interestingly enough, there's a new book out there called Team of Vipers. It's from former West Wing communications official Cliff Sims. And he describes how he heard John Kelly in a conversation about how to stop Trump from withdrawing U.S. forces from Syria, which was a point of contention between Trump and Kelly. So, yeah, Trump is surrounded by people who want war, as long as they don't have to fight it or pay for it. That's, after all, what you're all for. We got to take another break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're talking about all of these wars all over the place here. And tensions are continuing to rise between Syria and Israel. And Syria is now saying that they're ready to strike at Tel Aviv if Israel continues to strike at Damascus. And they have stated that they are determined to liberate the Golan Heights. Now, Israel's not going to want to give that up because they found a lot of oil and gas underneath it, and Israel's already selling it off. So Israel just is not going to want to give a refund for that. So that's going to get very, very tense. And apparently there's an Israeli patrol that got caught in a firefight at the contact line between the Israeli and Syrian forces inside the Golan. So it's getting very, very tense over there. Israel, possibly in response to, or probably in response to Syria's comments about going after Tel Aviv, has now deployed the Iron Dome missile defense system near Tel Aviv. And apparently they've also deployed the system in southern Israel in anticipation of any tension with the Gaza Strip. Now, this gets interesting because yesterday we were talking about how Israel had come on out and said that Iron Dome is really not cost effective dealing with the Gaza Strip because you're shooting these $200,000 interceptor missiles to intercept a $100 homemade rocket. But I guess that's all that they've got, and they're going to go with that. All right, we're going to take a phone call. Al in Canada, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. I'm sorry about what happened this morning. It's a shame.
Yes.
I'm kind of getting to be like you now.
Is that good or bad?
Oh.
I'm not sure that was a compliment.
Well, it's just moving on. I had great hope, for Donald Trump. As a matter of fact, here's something funny. I'm a big fan of This Old House and that sort of stuff. I was watching a couple of days ago season 5 of This Old House with Bob Vila. He actually went to Trump Towers, right?
Yes.
And he was with Ivana Trump, and he was questioning Donald Trump. And I'm looking at this, and it's all old. It's like 280 lines of resolution, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And Donald Trump is talking, and he hasn't really changed a lot. He's a little slower, you can tell, right?
Yes.
But I was like, I'm thinking, you know what, Donald? I wish I could tell you what's going to happen. I really do. And it's a shame. But anyway, moving along, I haven't heard you mention Tulsi Gabbard. Rand Paul, I think, would be another good one.
Yes.
To run in a couple of years. But do you honestly think that Donald Trump will shut the government down again?
At this point, no. I think he's going to try and go, with that, using the DOD to build the wall, and the Democrats are going to file lawsuits to stop him, and it's just going to drag on, and the illegal immigrants are going to continue to pour on into this country so the Democrats can steal the 2020 election with the illegal immigrant vote. That's my prediction.
Yeah. And then, this stuff that's going on in Venezuela, the federal government in the country I live in are, like a couple of points above or below it, depending how you look at it, as a dictatorship, authoritarianism and all that nonsense.
Yeah.
And it's a plan. It's a plan. I'm convinced Donald Trump is hamstrung. He's done. He knows he's done. He's caved in. And hey, you know what? He tried.
Well, I'm sorry, but when you're talking about the presidency, which is supposed to be the highest office in the land, we don't need try. As Yoda would say, do or do not, there is no try. And at this point, having watched Donald Trump basically collapse this morning, he's a one-term president. I don't think there's any way he's going to be able to come back from this because Pelosi is not going to let him get his wall. And they're going to go into 2020. The Democrats are going to say, look at this record of failure. He didn't do anything about the vaccines. He didn't clean up the elections. He didn't get the wall. We've got more wars than we've had before. And, between that, the election fraud, and the illegal immigrant vote, I think the Democrats, barring the unexpected, are going to do very well in 2020. And I shudder to think of it when you realize what the Democrats have become in terms of their mindset, this liberalism, PC, ultra leftist point of view.
Yeah, it's way over there. I don't know whether you knew it or not, but up here in Canada, I think about a year and a half ago, Trudeau invited in, 25,000 Syrian quote-unquote refugees that cost about $1 billion a year. And apparently, something's going on in Kingston in Ontario with two of them. So they were picked up for terrorism.
Ooh, imagine my shock.
No, you didn't know about this. I'm surprised because usually there's a little bit about Canada on your website. So anyways, obviously you were busy with what's going on here, but there's very little mention in the United States about the fact that there were how many votes now? 3 to pay these public servants, and the Democrats
it was more than that.
Shot it down every single time.
It was more than that. There was something like, Trump made about 12 different compromise offers, and every time Pelosi said no. She didn't want a compromise. She wanted total capitulation, and this morning she got it.
Yeah, she did. Well, there you go. That's it, right?
Yep.
That's it in a nutshell. I'm sorry, Mike, but hey, maybe Rand Paul. I doubt it.
Well, again, getting back to what I was saying about the deep state being totally in control of the election process, which is why they were so scared of Donald Trump. It was planned for Hillary to be president in 2016. They may run her again. But anybody who is not part of that pro-war military-industrial complex machine, they're never going to be allowed near the nomination. And as much as I like Tulsi Gabbard, and I wish her a lot of luck, she's already under attack. They're going to get her out of this race just as quickly as they can. And by the time we actually get to 2020, there'll be nobody left to choose from but somebody who's already been vetted as totally in support of the war agenda. If, in fact, we've not had a nuclear war between now and then, and we still have a country.
It's a very deep history of all these actors.
Yes.
And guys like Donald Trump come along. Even Sandy Cortez, I don't think she's going to last. I honestly don't. She's, I'm not disagreeing with what she's saying. I'm not going to agree with what she says, but I just don't think she's going to last. She doesn't have that deep-rooted entrenchment.
Yeah.
But, who's to say, right? Hey, who's to say? Thanks a lot for your time, Mike.
All right, thanks an awful lot. And we're going to switch over to Mark in Georgia. Aloha, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, one thing you were mentioning about the Iron Dome versus the Katiuska bottle rockets, and one of the major problems is these Katiuskas basically impact with negligible damage. But if you fire one of those Iron Dome rockets that have an explosive warhead, there was an Israeli citizen that complained this Iron Dome rocket spread a bunch of shrapnel all over the place, and at the Katiuska bottle rocket finished its trajectory would have done less damage than what happened as a result of left or go to the left. You're going to go south. Easy. All right. Anyway, the thing is, it's a boondoggle, and the main thing is that the Israelis need to stop antagonizing the Palestinians. I don't know if I told you, a friend of mine's a Palestinian Christian, and although I lost contact with him years ago, he said everything you're hearing about Islam from the Zionists is completely off base and completely unfair. So, and I'm ashamed that our government is paying for this boondoggle. Does that make sense?
Well, it does. I'm not sure that the Iron Dome is necessarily a boondoggle. It's not designed to hit those little Palestinian rockets. It's designed to go up against a peer target, like a fighter plane or a cruise missile or something like that. And, in the case of Gaza, it is a bit of a sledgehammer to go after a housefly with. And part of the problem, of course, in dealing with those little homemade rockets or shed-made rockets here. They're not very accurate. They're completely unguided, and they don't fly straight. They tend to weave a lot, which is why the Iron Dome has such a hard time locking in and intercepting. And I remember in, I think the last time that there was a major conflict between Gaza and Israel, Israel was just throwing handfuls of these Iron Dome missiles at each and every one of the Palestinian rockets because they just couldn't hit it. But that's not saying that the Iron Dome can't hit other targets like an enemy fighter plane or something like that, which is what it's really designed to do.
Yeah. Well, I'm personally, with what I know now, I'm rooting for the other side. I don't wish any harm to the Israeli people. I just wish the Israeli government was actually morally accountable for the things that they've done to provoke hostilities. Because the one thing that needs to be clear, everyone has a right to defend themselves, not just from violence, but also everyone has a right to defend themselves from unjust accusation. And I don't hold the idea that anybody has the right to make an accusation and then obstruct anyone from saying, well, that's your side of the story. What about the other side? You know, Proverbs 18:17 is, I think, something that Claire would mind looking up and saying, yeah, the first one to present his case seems right, and then someone steps forward to question him. And that's where, that's where I have a real problem with some people. They hear one side and make up their mind, and I'm like, and I was having this exchange with this woman a while back, and a few weeks ago, she goes, well, and I told her, you can't make up your mind by hearing one. I'm like, yeah, it's true, you do. And it's like, I've heard your side for pretty much all my life, and it wasn't until I heard the other side that I stopped and said, well, wait a minute, all these years, all these decades, all I'd heard is one side, and then when I finally hear the other side, I'm saying this changes the complexity of things completely. So anyway, I do appreciate it, and I guess we'll be talking again sometime soon, okay?
I'm sure that we will. And with regard to this thing about people making up their mind hearing just one side, I think what happened with those Covington Catholic High School students is a perfect illustration. The claim went out, a carefully edited video clip, and everybody bought into it. And everybody ran with it. They were just so happy they could push that agenda. And then it turned out that those kids didn't intrude anywhere. They were standing there waiting for a bus. It was these black Israelite Hebrews, whatever they call themselves, that were shouting at them and trying to provoke them. And then you had this so-called Native American elder who came on in and he basically got in their faces with his drum. And the video shows it was completely misrepresented by the media. But the media just went with it because the media supported it. Mark, my turn. The media supported it. They bit onto it because it supported the agenda they're trying to sell of white people are bad, black people are poor victims, Native Americans are victims, these white kids with their MAGA hats, they had to be at fault. And it was completely, totally wrong. And anyway, Mark, you have something to say?
Oh, that's fine. I mean, like I say, but the thing about that native is he made himself out to be some kind of Vietnam vet, and it turns out it's like the time you served was after there was any military involvement in Vietnam. We did have some quote-unquote advisors there, but that was kind of like the fall of Saigon and all like that. So, test but verify, or as 1 Thessalonians 5:21, test everything. And that's where I hope that I'm not going to get locked up next week for being on, I'm more known for my candor than for my diplomacy. And I got a trial next week regarding a speeding ticket, and I don't want to get locked up for telling the truth. But that's the thing is that contempt of court is something that is entirely based on a judge's personal subjective opinion. And so I'm going to prepare a generic video and, basically just trying to be clear. I don't want to get locked up for telling the truth. Does that make sense?
Well, it does, and I wish you a lot of luck. I wish you a lot of luck. All right, we're going to let you go here. Thank you very much for the phone call. And getting on back to the news here. Over in Israel, The forces are continuing with systematic crimes in the occupied Palestinian territories. They've killed a Palestinian civilian, wounded 7 others, including 3 children and a journalist in the West Bank. Israeli forces continue to use excessive force against peaceful protesters in the Gaza Strip. 125 civilians, including 41 children, 6 women, 4 journalists, and 6 paramedics, were wounded. One of them is reported as very, very serious. Okay, now I'm going to skip on down here, and we're going to talk about what's been going on here with this situation. Okay, I want to talk about this Covington Catholic High School situation because it does reveal quite a bit about human nature, about the nature of our corporate media. And basically, you had, again, these young white men from Covington Catholic High School were in Washington, D.C. for the March for Life, an anti-abortion rally. And that rally attracted hundreds of thousands of people, mostly white. Then you had this black group screaming at them. These kids were just waiting for the bus to go back to Kentucky. And then you had this American Indian activist named Nathan Phillips, who loves to see himself on camera. In fact, one of the things he was using his claim about being a Vietnam veteran was to raise money for a documentary about himself. Talk about vanity run amok. So when you had that confrontation on video and you edited the video correctly, the corporate media had their chance. Oh, it's MAGA hats. It's white kids. It's a chance to smear pro-lifers, Christians, and Trump supporters as racists all in the same news story, and that's exactly what they proceeded to do. All right, I'm going to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
It happens more often than we can imagine. In my case, I was sitting at home, and out of nowhere, I just started feeling uncomfortable. Then it got worse, and I started perspiring. I tried to ignore it, but I waited too long. The chest pain came as we were driving to the hospital emergency. I felt my life clock begin to tick. I barely survived. There was lots of damage done to my heart. What do I do now? I was lucky. I took a leap of faith and tried a 7-herb formula with hawthorn, garlic, cayenne, and more called Extendivite. Herbs have been used for thousands of years to keep us healthy. If you're not using Extendivite as a preventative supplement, maybe it's time to start. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to take a phone call. Dan in Washington, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, thanks for taking the call. Just wondering, McCarthy, the new head of the House Republicans, isn't basically he like an open borders, Paul Ryan type Republican?
I don't recall off
you know
the top.
how it
I don't recall the individual positions of other than the leadership, like obviously Nancy Pelosi.
Okay, yeah, because I read somewhere like the way he got rid of Steve King and the way he, it just sounds like if Trump can't get this done, and I don't think the wall is necessarily the answer, but that's what he ran on. If he can't get the wall and he can't get like birthright citizenship and family reunification, I just blame the Republicans. I'll never vote Republican again after that. So
Well, I guess you're voting third party then, because I'm not voting Democrat ever again. I mean, unless Tulsi Gabbard actually gets in, at which point yet I'll have to reevaluate here. But I actually agree with you on one thing. We don't really need the wall. The reason there's a confrontation down there at the border is because all of these people from Mexico and Honduras and the rest of Central America, they're being lured here. They're being baited here with the promise of free stuff, that they can come on up here and they can get their medical care and they can get, they can have their babies here and the Americans will pay for it, that they're going to get welfare and food stamps and they're going to get all this free stuff. That's what's drawing them here. And all of it is a violation of Title VIII. Right now, I saw an article where, let's see, just give me a second here. Okay. Right now, illegal immigrants receiving Medicaid costs taxpayers $18.5 billion with a B dollars every year. They're not supposed to get it. Illegal immigrants are not qualified to receive Medicaid benefits, and yet they do. So if we stop that,
it's massive fraud. Well, what about fake Social Security cards? Where's all that money going? I mean, this stuff's been going on for decades. It's massive fraud and corruption at the highest levels of the government. I don't see any hope. I mean, if they won't, I agree. Social Security as well, but they don't go after. We need to go after the employers of these people and throw them in jail, and that would require, going after the corporations like Tyson Chicken or some of these others that hire them, and that's what they're not really willing to do. So,
well, it's not just the employers. It's not just the employers. It's anybody who gives them transportation, anybody who gives them shelter, anybody who gives them food. I mean, these are all Title VIII violations. They're not supposed to be here. And anybody who assists them in any way, provides material support, it's a felony violation. All of these mayors of sanctuary cities, all these governors of sanctuary states, they're guilty of Title VIII violations. Why are they not being raided by the FBI in the pre-dawn hours and marched out of their homes in handcuffs?
I just think I think some of these leaders like David Duke and these white nationalist types should just all switch to Democrat, and we'll just go full communist and just destroy the Republicans forever.
Well, I think the Republic's pretty much dinged up already. Anyway, got to let you go. Got to take a break for station identification. We'll be back with the lovely Lady Claire after these few words.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network,
where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
Sorry, got to get things started. We're still getting the lovely Lady Claire ensconced appropriately. And let's see, your talking points are located right there. And so, anyway, welcome back to the show, hour number 3. And for those of you on YouTube, this lovely creature sitting next to me is the lovely Lady Claire, who likes to join me in hour number 3, which means I get to kick back and be lazy and basically go to sleep. In fact, here's the volume control. When the clock is on yellow, you put it up and you talk. When it's on green or blue, you put it. Anyway, all right. You never let me have any fun. All right, so what's the first thing that you want to talk about today? Oh, hang on a second. Probably help if I turned up your volume.
Thank you, dear. Okay, the first thing that I want to talk about, which is really concerning me greatly, as it has been you, the situation in Venezuela.
Yes.
And apparently, when he was CIA director, Mike Pompeo was talking about how he could orchestrate some sort of a transition to power. And this week, with Maduro is facing a very serious challenge, and apparently Pompeo had the, I'm going to say hubris, I could say other things, but that would get us off the air, Pompeo called the opposition leader, Juan Guaido, thank you, and declared himself interim president after that call. And Michael, just the insanity, the hubris of this. And by backing Guaido, this meant that there were open efforts to undermine Maduro, and that seemed to be the near-term direction for the administration. Now, Bolton said that the main focus right now was figuring out a way to ensure that all money from Venezuela exports goes directly to Guaido. Guaido, yes. And I'm shaking my head and I'm thinking, my heavens, apparently there is no such thing as a sovereign country anymore.
No, there isn't really. And and as I was mentioning earlier in the show, this is the equivalent of Nancy Pelosi standing up at the House of Representatives, swearing an oath and declaring herself the interim president. because Guaido's position in the Venezuelan government is roughly the equivalent of Speaker of the House.
Right.
But yeah, this is a coup d'état, and Bolton is out there. Basically, they're going to start saying you either send the money to Guaido's new government, or we'll sanction and tariff you. Don't you dare write any checks to Maduro. They're trying to basically starve him of any funds. There was a story that we had earlier in the program where once again Venezuela went to the Bank of England and said, "You're holding $1.6 billion worth of our gold. We would like it back." And Bank of England is saying, no, we're not going to do that. And apparently they were lobbied by Mike Pompeo and John Bolton to basically say, no. I mean, this is outright conquest of another country. And this is not about democracy. It's about oil. It's about gold. It's about the vanity and ego of America's war machine, because they've been trying to get into Venezuela for decades now. And it's about erasing a country that actually made socialism work.
Yep.
And they want that to go away.
Oh, desperately.
So, and again, look at the past history. Every time the United States goes into a country saying we're bringing democracy, democracy is absolutely the last thing that happens.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And in this article, I believe it was Zero Hedge, there is a problem for people like Bolton and Pompeo. And he sort of said, yeah, officials are still studying how this had to be done. And the U.S. is setting itself up as so overtly hostile.
Yes.
That Maduro has ordered U.S. diplomats out of the country. Trump has ordered them not to move. And I just wonder if the keeping of these diplomats at the American consul office is a way of creating sacrificial lambs to be used as the justification for the U.S. going in full tilt boogie. Mike, what do you think?
Well, I think that's a very good possibility, because the military in Venezuela are still firmly on the side of Maduro.
Yeah.
And that means that Guaido can posture and take oaths and accept the platitudes of all the U.S. puppet provinces around the world. But Guaido can't actually do anything. He can't actually take over the government.
No.
And the only way that's going to happen is if he's there with military backing from the United States.
Yeah.
That in turn is going to be complicated by the fact that Russia has already sent contractors.
Yes, security guys.
To basically support and protect Maduro.
Now, I did a little looking, and I thought, okay, with whom do we have, who's left with whom the U.S. government has friendly relations? Colombia.
Israel.
That too. Now, there are a number of bases in neighboring Colombia bordering on Venezuela. And Mike, if I were a betting gal, I would bet that those U.S. bases in Colombia are on very high alert.
I would imagine so, and I would imagine, I mean, this has obviously been in the planning for quite some time.
Yeah.
I think it may have been given the green light with that Russian deal to mine gold in Venezuela. But I imagine there's a lot of assets already in place to move forward with this. We could even see something dramatic happen this weekend. Anyway, we're going to do a quick shout out to our honor affiliates who are rejoining our network. And there are also U.S. bases, I believe, in Chile and Peru from which airstrikes could be launched.
Yeah.
So it's for Venezuela, it's going to be a complex defensive problem.
Yeah.
If it goes to full-on military war, which again, that's what we saw happen in Syria and Afghanistan and Iraq, and anyway.
And apparently Maduro is urging his supporters to hit the streets today as Russian security contractors arrive in Venezuela. Guys, can't we just say mercs? Come on, let's get clean and get over it. Mercs, that's what they are. And with this demonstration tonight, there is no way of knowing how violent it may get, if there are people who are already out there to literally bat their neighbors over their head because of what they believe.
Agent provocateurs. I mean, we've seen photos of huge crowds gathered in Caracas.
Right.
And we're being told that these are the Venezuelan people who are opposed to Maduro. unfortunately, I couldn't see any signs.
Yeah.
You know, for all I know, they were out there celebrating a soccer victory.
Yeah.
And we have seen the media fake pictures like this before. We saw it with Iran when they were showing us pictures of crowds and say, "Oh, these are the people who want, Ahmadinejad to leave." And then when you saw the full frame, it was Ahmadinejad speaking to the crowd, and they were cheering him.
Right.
So we have to be very, very careful that we're not getting bamboozled yet again.
Oh, yeah. And according to Reuters, apparently, Maduro says he's willing to travel to New York to discuss the situation with the UN Security Council. President Maduro, please, a word. Flying right now in any kind of a craft could be the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, that's the first thing that would occur to me as well. But on the other hand, you know, Maduro, he's trying to hold on to power. He's the legitimately elected president of Venezuela. He won his election. Everybody is screaming, "Oh, it had to be fake. Had to be. We have honest elections here in the United States of America, but trust us, the Venezuelan election was you know, crooked." Well, if so, why did the opposition party wind up with control of the legislature?
There you go. I mean, that's
kidneys.
That's your reason. And now these contractors are to have come from a group called the Wagner Group. And these are private contract guys who have performed secret missions on behalf of the government, including fighting in Syria and Ukraine, which brings to mind this incident from last February when U.S.-backed forces killed 100 Russian mercenaries, which is about the closest thing to a direct proxy conflict between Russia and the
I remember a lot of people thought that was going to be it. The missiles were going to be flying.
Oh, yeah. And Guaido is joining. Guaido, I'm sorry, is joining with China to criticize the U.S. for interfering in Venezuelan.
Actually, that was Russia's joining with China.
Yes. Okay.
Russia is offering to mediate between Guaido and Maduro, which sounds like it would be a really good thing. Except Guaido is not there to negotiate. His assignment is you are to take over the country and deliver the oil into the hands of American oil companies, and you will deliver the gold into the clutches of the New York Federal Reserve and J.P. Morgan.
And apparently Russia has invested billions, with a B, of dollars in the Maduro regime and has pledged to stand by the leader this week. And in fact, Yevgeny Shabayev, leader of a local chapter of paramilitary groups there, told Reuters he had heard the number of security contractors in Venezuela is roughly 400. Whoa.
That's enough to cause some trouble here.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Russia's defense minister and Venezuela's information ministry have not responded to requests for comment. And the Kremlin spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, said, "We have no such information," when asked about the contractors.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and grab ourselves a phone call here from Brooks in Philadelphia. Aloha, Brooks. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. Long-time listener. Love the show. So I've been thinking for a while now about voting fraud. And everybody's shouting about Donald Trump possibly being voter fraud, Hillary Clinton possibly committing voter fraud. And I had a question to you. What is the motivation for a president or any sitting leader to investigate voting fraud? Because if they uncovered fraud in their own election, doesn't it invalidate their own election?
It would invalidate their own election. The reason our election system is such a mess is that everybody who's in power, as you basically said, they're the beneficiary of the fraud. In the case of Donald Trump, it is less understandable why he kind of dropped the ball on this, because all of the fraud that we saw was on the side of the Democrats and Hillary Clinton. I mean, it's basically been admitted now they rigged the primaries for Hillary Clinton. And the lawsuits are still in court over that one. And so I don't know. I mean, Donald Trump had to know.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. So there's the DNC, which obviously committed fraud, and everybody points a finger at Roger Stone right now, who got under FBI indictment. But the real thing is, it doesn't add up, because imagine that there's fraud on both sides, and maybe they don't even know about it. Maybe Hillary Clinton had no idea, and then
come on,
no,
I'm not saying that that's really
come
true.
on.
Or maybe
I mean,
Donald Trump had no idea. Maybe he uncovered his own fraud, but potentially, or let's say Donald Trump had no idea that there was fraud in the election, and then he uncovers fraud on his side and Hillary Clinton's side. So if he were to release that information,
well, you're forgetting
to the public
something.
and make it look bad.
You're forgetting something. Okay. The Election Integrity Commission was not about examining fraud in previous elections. It was about overhauling the election system to prevent fraud in the future. And again, given that Donald Trump was the victim of election fraud in 2016, and even during the campaign, he said, you know, if I think there's been fraud, I'm not going to accept the results of the election. Your rationale breaks down. They're not going to uncover their own fraud because what they're talking about is overhauling the election system and just say, we're going to start over. We're going to build a new election system so that it's much, much harder to cheat in the future. Okay? So thank you for the phone call. I think we want to get on back to the war zones here.
Okay.
All right. So what's next on your list here?
Well, moving over to Asia. The U.S. warships have again entered Taiwan Strait, but this time there was a slight difference. They had, Chinese bombers overhead.
Well, that's going to make them a little bit nervous, but you know
Yeah.
something? The Chinese bombers have as much right to be there
Yeah.
under international law as the United States has, and that's it. And the U.S. Navy does have these freedom of navigation operations, which recognize the international I think it's 12-mile limit.
Yeah.
Some countries like to claim a little bit more, and that's what the freedom of navigation exercises are about, is to basically say, we don't recognize your larger oceanic claim, and we're going to sail right up to your border here. But this is not being done to sort of settle a line on a map of the ocean. This is being done to antagonize and provoke Beijing.
Right. And they're talking about it as though it was normal, routine. And there have been a lot of this kind of thing going on 3 times last year. But as I said, the change was the Chinese Air Force was busy overhead flying H-6 strategic bombers and reconnaissance planes in the vicinity since Thursday.
Well, we know that the U.S. sails through the Taiwan Straits all the time, and up until recently, China just shrugged. But with the open support for Taiwan, the talk of selling weapons to Taiwan, the increasing tensions of the South China Sea, not to mention the trade war, obviously this is another poke in the eye. And it does remind me of Arthur H. McCollum's plan that was crafted to goad Japan into attacking the United States of America. And it was these 8 different things that could be done, which to American sensibilities would not have seemed like all that big a deal, but which to the Japanese sensibilities were all horrible insults. And Roosevelt followed this plan through much of 1941. And obviously on December 7th, he got what he wanted. Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. This is looking an awful lot like the same. We're going to poke China in the South China Sea. We're going to poke China with Taiwan. We're going to poke China with tariffs and sanctions. We're going to poke China by sailing through the Taiwan Straits.
Yeah, it's very tense, and I wish that the United States government would go to a policy of engaging rather than enraging these people.
They've got nothing to work with. That's the big problem. Okay, if we had not abandoned our manufacturing, if we still had good agriculture, the United States could engage with these other countries and say, you give us so much in oil and gold, and we'll give you so much bushels of wheat and tractors and factory machines. But we've squandered our manufacturing. We've allowed it to be bled off overseas. What little manufacturing we have left is concentrated in our military industrial complex, and it's not producing good weapons. And what it does produce are very expensive. We've destroyed our agricultural exports with the GMO experiment. So the United States has nothing to engage other countries with. So the only other option is we go and take what the nation needs, and that's what they're basically involved with. Sorry, I have to send a message to our control room.
Okay.
All right, here we go. So what's next on your list?
Well, I'd like to expand on this just a little bit. And apparently in the span of one day, 24 hours, China has gone from threatening to crash U.S. markets if President Trump doesn't agree to a trade deal to helping the U.S. rebut reports that trade talks weren't going as smoothly as President Trump had wanted them to. And during a press conference yesterday, Chinese Ministry of Commerce, Gao Feng, denied reports that a meeting involving high-level trade officials in Washington had been canceled. Now, the FT, or Financial
Times, yeah.
had been cited. And apparently there's some frustration with China's reluctance to cave on demands relating to curbing IP theft and certain structural reforms. Now, backing up Larry Kudlow, who sparked a brief rally just before the close on Wednesday when he appeared on CNBC to deny these reports. Kudlow said yesterday that most important meeting between a Chinese delegation led by Vice Premier Liu He, the country's top economic official, it's still going to move forward next week. Mike, if you were a betting guy, would you bet on that?
I'm not betting that it's actually going to accomplish much of anything, and the intellectual property issue is a major sticking point, and it's one in which, again, to American sensibilities, China is very much in the wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And, but, if you really think about it, it's our own fault.
Yeah.
American corporations said, we're going to let China manufacture all of our high-tech stuff. Here, China, here is how you make an iPhone or an iPad or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but we trust you won't use all this information that we've given you to make competing products, which is, of course, what China did. All right, we got to take a break for commercials.
Okay.
We'll be right back.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
When your doctor tells you have bad cholesterol or blockages in the arteries, what do? When diet and exercise is not enough, we try medications and hope for the best. For the last 2 decades, I have been telling people about a natural method to help solve these problems and more. Extendovite can help maintain cardiovascular health and lower blood lipid levels in adults. The 7 herbs in Extendovite are known to work together synergistically to get the results we hope for. There are many testimonials on Extendovite's effect on circulatory-related ailments. Get Extendovite today to start your journey back to a healthier life. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or see us on amazon.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And Claire, pick up where you left off.
Yeah, we're talking about the trade negotiations, if one can call them that, between China and the United States. And apparently this was something that sort of got out there, leaked. RT reported to Russia Today on Thursday that Beijing might cut off all Chinese funding to Silicon Valley after the U.S. slapped an export ban on Huawei, subsidiary.
Huawei. It's pronounced Huawei.
A subsidiary in Silicon Valley. You know, it's very strange out there.
It is very strange out there. And the, of course, what this is all about is market share.
Right.
I mean, the government is trying to say, well, we're concerned that, you know, Huawei's cell phones may have Chinese spyware in there, and if you're going to have spyware in your cell phone, it should be American spyware.
Right, of course.
Even George Soros is out there screaming about the danger and the threat from Chinese high-tech products, which tells us where a large part of his investment portfolio is invested in American high-tech.
Yeah.
And so this is really all about market share.
Yeah.
You know, Apple can't move those $1,000 iPhone 10 handsets.
Mike, who's got that in the middle class, the working class? No one.
No, they really don't. And we're already seeing steep discounts and offers and to try and move them. And then on the other hand, you've got Huawei that's making these very inexpensive phones.
Yeah.
They don't have all the bells and whistles of an iPhone.
Yeah.
That's true. But people are going into the cell phone stores to sign up for service, and they're being shown all the phones. And they'll say, I can't afford the iPhone. I'm going to go with this, you know, inexpensive little unit over here, which most of those are now made by Huawei. So that's it. It's market share.
Yeah.
And it's sort of an unofficial form of protectionism. But the reason all of this is falling apart, and despite the tariffs, Chinese imports into the United States are actually up. And I mentioned this when Trump first started talking about tariffs. And I said it was too soon.
Yeah.
Because American manufacturing was not poised to take advantage of a tariff battle.
Right.
That people were still going to have to go to China and buy what they wanted because that was the only place you could get it.
Yep.
And they'd have to pay the higher prices for it, which was just more money from your pocket into the U.S. government's pocket. And it's turned out exactly the way I predicted it would. Chinese imports are up. U.S. exports are down. The sanctions are certainly hitting those. But it's about market share. If we can't make a product at a good price that people want to buy, then we shut out the competition. Ooh, we're going to start arresting Huawei's CFO and accuse them of terrible things, you know, so the American people will buy American. And I'm a great believer in buying American and keeping the money in circulation here in the United States of America, but you've got to have companies who are buying what we want to buy, or who are building what we want to buy. And stop filling up the shopping malls with all kinds of trendy, high-fashion junk that some marketing person thinks we should be motivated into wanting to have in our home. Because right now, in hard economic times, people get very, very pragmatic.
Yep, absolutely. And one thing I wanted to ask you about, Mike, yesterday, China's central bank announced its latest liquidity injection scheme, which analysts saw as a quasi-quantitative easing program or a potential precursor to a full-blown qualitative easing. Mike, what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, it does look like that may be what's going on. I mean, all of these economies all over the world are in serious trouble. It's not just down in Venezuela. And the central banks are basically engaged in legalized counterfeiting, trying to prop up the systems. But at some point, it has to break.
Yeah.
And we're seeing signs already of slowdown in China, of slowdown here in the United States of America. Basically, we're looking at the beginning of a global recession for which most people, to judge by the response to the government shutdown, they're not prepared to deal with it.
Nope.
And when the recession hits, it's going to mean missed mortgage payments, missed car loan payments, loans are going to default, the banks are going to be in serious, serious trouble, so they'll print up more money to try and prop up the banking system. And that's how you wind up being like Venezuela or Zimbabwe or Germany during the Weimar Republic, where you're carrying around box loads of currency to just do your daily commerce.
And apparently, what the Chinese banks are thinking is this liquidity will increase the appeal of perpetual bonds to be issued by banks, making them riskless for all intents and purposes, which can then be used to bolster capital cushions and thereby help relax a key current restraint on credit supply.
Well, that does seem to be a good way, a good idea. Always being able to guarantee the bond buyers that they can't lose their money, that's going to draw them into you.
Yeah, but that could be a little bit
we
treacherous,
saw
huh?
that back during the first S&L bailout under George Herbert Walker Bush, where he basically lifted the maximum insurance coverage for the HSBC from $1,000 to $100,000, and basically sent a message to the rest of the world. If you invest your money in the U.S., there's no way you can lose. If you make money, you keep it. If you lose money, we will stick the American people with the bill, and that's exactly what they did. We'll be right back after these commercials.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
Do you know there is an ongoing war right here in America? Are you aware that U.S. citizens have been classified as enemies of the state since 1933? Have you recognized that our entire government is really a vast network of interlocking corporations engaged in commerce? Look up Title 28, Section 3002. Tune in to In Defense of Humanity on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. Find out what's really going on and learn how to protect yourself and your family as flesh and blood men and women living in a corporate reality.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. By Christine, great for heart palpitations. By Ann, before I started using this product, every afternoon my ankles and my hands would be swollen. That doesn't happen anymore. So if that part of their advertising is true, I have to assume that the rest of it is also. Not to mention, that when I had my yearly blood test, only a few weeks after beginning to use this product, my cholesterol had dropped over 30 points. I'm going to continue to take it. By Croc, I love this product. It really works. By Brad, works great, thank you. Tell us your story. Get your Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. And we're talking about the economy in China, keeping an eye on that.
Yeah.
I know that their housing market is heading into a slump.
Yeah, big one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so is ours, as a matter of fact.
Mhm.
Yeah, the downside of globalism, when it hits, it's going to hit everybody.
It becomes contagious, if you will.
Yes, it does.
Financial contagion. And there was a gentleman at Rabobank, Michael Every, and what he's saying about this is that the Chinese banks are desperate to keep their little Ponzi scheme afloat, and they can issue perpetuals that no one in their right mind would want to hold. And the PBOC will swap them for its bills.
Well, ultimately, every
Uh-huh.
private central bank, every central bank,
Mhm.
you know, it's a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
Because when you're creating money out of thin air and you're loaning it into circulation at interest,
Mhm.
the interest builds up faster than the available money supply. There's
Mhm.
never enough money out there to pay off the debt completely.
Right.
And it makes the bankers very, very rich, but it
Mhm.
makes the economy naturally unstable.
Yeah.
Which is why every once in a while you get into these situations
Mhm.
where they have to take these desperation measures of new instant money
Mhm.
to try and fix it. But I think it's being unfair to single out China's banking
Yeah.
system as a Ponzi scheme because they all are. The only
Mhm.
ones that are not are the Islamic bankings
Mhm.
systems, which basically loans are all done with loan plus fee rather than compounded interest.
Yeah. I consider that a very moral thing to do.
Well, it's kind of interesting.
Mhm.
Islam forbids usury of money.
Mhm.
Christianity used to
Mhm.
until the time of the Templars.
Yes.
And then everybody said, wow, look at how good those Templars are doing.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
we ought to change the rules here. And so the church in general got into the business of banking.
Mhm.
And just making lots of money. And the money junkies were born.
Yes, definitely.
Anyway, what's next on your...
Okay, well, as we've been focusing on Venezuela, Reuters has just reported that a group of Russian mercenaries with ties to the Kremlin, this goes back
Yeah,
to
to what you were
Putin's-
saying, the
yeah.
contractors that are in
Right.
country right now.
I wonder how many.
Wasn't there that one article that said about 400?
Yeah. And whatever else you may think about Russia's President Putin, he's generally 100 chess moves ahead of the U.S. government.
Well, I think the fly in the ointment on
Mhm.
that one is that the U.S. government is now acting reckless
Yeah.
and chaotic.
Yeah.
Chaotic. And so it's becoming harder and harder to figure out what the advance, what the next move of the U.S. is going to be.
Mhm.
And anybody who's ever played chess will tell you that, playing against an experienced opponent, you
Mhm.
think ahead and you play the game. But if you're playing against somebody just learning the game where they're just
Yeah.
putting things all over the
Yeah.
and they can quite literally surprise you and win the game
Yeah.
because you
Mhm.
couldn't see what was coming. And I think that's becoming a problem here
Mhm.
where because Trump is not in control
Mhm.
and nobody's really sure who is.
Yeah.
And control is being shared by a lot of people, like
Mhm.
John Bolton, Mike
Yeah.
Pompeo, and now Nancy Pelosi. She's
Mhm.
out there strutting her stuff.
Yep.
And Yeah, it's kind of hard to know what the U.S. is going to do next.
Yeah. They have sort of entered their wounded political animal phase right now.
In a lot of ways, and
Yeah.
again, it speaks back to this issue of factionalization and infighting. We had a caller on the show earlier today who said he's talking to people and he said they've never ever seen it this bad, and that's true. In all my life, I've never seen it like this.
Yeah.
Never ever seen it like this.
You know, but what's funny about being here, most of my church brothers and sisters are more liberal, but I know that I could sit down and talk with them without them throwing something in my face, you know, like the Antifa guys.
Well, again, you need to understand Antifa are being funded and supported to be Antifa, just like that bought and paid for group who showed up this morning following Roger Stone's bail hearing and were shouting, lock him up, lock him up. That wasn't a spontaneous grassroots reaction. These things are all being staged.
Right.
That group of black kids that were shouting at the Catholic kids at the Lincoln Memorial. I mean, they call themselves a church. We don't know who's funding them.
Yeah.
They've got some really unusual ideas, as it were. But yeah, a lot of these groups that you see in front of the TV cameras behaving like this, they're paid to be there.
Yeah. And there are some other things going on and have been documented by, I'm coining a new term, blogopreneurs. Entrepreneurs, blogopreneurs.
Okay.
Apparently, Guido has offered Maduro amnesty if he goes quietly.
Okay, it's Guido.
Guido, yes, okay.
Okay.
And apparently, child deaths are rocketing because of the breakdown of the socioeconomic system. And Germany today told Venezuela, hold elections or we recognize Guido, right?
Guido.
Guido, okay.
The G is pronounced as an H. Here's the problem. Venezuela just had elections.
That's what I thought.
Maduro won.
Yeah.
You know, this is like Brexit. We're just going to keep on having elections until we get the results that we want.
Yeah.
We support democracy only when our people get voted in.
Right, right. I'd like to talk also about a little phrase that's become a catchphrase.
Okay.
And it's called, thank you, and it is called the axis of evil.
Yes.
You know, people in there have been labeled this way: Saddam Hussein, Cuba, Libya, Syria, and saying that those people were state sponsors of terrorism that are pursuing or who have the potential to pursue WMDs or have the capability to do so in violation of their treaty obligations. Now, the nice
we're
thing,
back to this whole.
Yeah. The nice thing is
they got nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
They've got nuclear weapons.
and you can
be
cobble
afraid.
Yes.
Be afraid.
Yes, you can cobble together everything that you think, and that's one way of your going to the alleged evildoers. Now, Iraq was removed in March 2003, while Libya had to wait for President Obama and Secretary of State Clinton to be dealt with, but North Korea, Cuba, Syria, and Iran are still around. And by the way, I think with the current rounds of sanctions, we could add Russia to that list. What do you think?
Yeah, I think probably Russia's now been declared. I mean, with the new national security assessment, Russia and China are now strategic threats or something equally ominous here.
And it was. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to say. Russia and China aren't a threat to me. I'm sorry.
Me neither.
I'm an old guy. I can decide for myself, who's an enemy and who's a friend.
Yeah.
And I have no reason to be concerned about anybody in Russia, or for that matter, China.
Right, right. And remember, Mike, when our net friends sent us the link to the performance of the Policemen's Choral Association.
That Russian police,
yeah.
and they were singing in English,
beautiful
English, better than we hear on the phones around here.
And I was looking at the faces, and I'm listening to this English that is far superior to what I hear a lot when I'm on the phone smiling and dialing. And I'm looking at the faces of these guys, and I'm saying, A, they're young enough to be my sons, and B, I don't want to be hostile to these people because they're working in an artistic environment. They are working hard to get where they need to go, and I always applaud that.
Boy, if you could only find singers like that for your choir.
Oh, man, I'd like to airlift them, but their conductor may get a little snitty about that.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Yeah. I don't, as you were saying, I don't want the government to think it can define who a threat to me or what a threat to me is.
Well,
you
that's
know?
the whole point of all this
Yeah.
axis of
Uh-huh.
evil, and Maduro's a dictator, and it's the process they go through of using the corporate media to just say bad things, bad things, bad things, until finally the repetition sinks in, and the American people are saying, "Oh, those Iraqis must be really horrible people, or those Iranians are really horrible people," and a lot of it turns out to be lies. I mean, like this idea that all over the Middle East, women are forced to wear the hijab. I think it's actually only 2 countries out of over there. And again, there's a film that you need to see. It's called Don't Tell Mother I'm in Iran. It's by a Jewish filmmaker.
Brilliant, charming.
Yeah. Went over to Iran and just started interviewing ordinary people. Didn't interview government officials or anybody of any political, just ordinary people, car dealers, tailors, bakers.
Yeah.
And wow, big surprise. The Iranians are just like us. They have jobs, they have families, they want to live their lives, in peace. And throughout history, we've seen this need, this propaganda tool of convincing us that the other side aren't even human beings.
Yeah.
The Japs, the Krauts, the Slants, the Hajis, the Gooks. And we're seeing it again already with Maduro.
Yeah.
I mean, they were laying it on with a trowel the whole last week about what a horrible dictator he is. How can he be a dictator when he got elected?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And one of the things that bothers me about this axis of evil category, I want to know from President Trump why Russia has been punished with sanctions for actions they did not do, like allegedly annexing
Crimea.
Crimea, yes. I mean,
that's the way it works. There's the real world, and then there's official policy. And I'll give you a good example, okay? Everybody knows Israel has nuclear weapons.
Yeah, that's not a
Israel's even effectively admitted it. Mordecai Vanunu sent us all pictures of the bomb factory.
Yes.
It's a reality. But the United States official position is still nuclear ambiguity. We're not sure, which they're following that policy because that justifies continuing to send U.S. money to Israel in defiance of the Symington Amendment to the Foreign Appropriations Act and the Glenn Act.
Yeah.
And so we have a government that is crafting for itself and for you a fantasy world in which to operate, where maybe Israel doesn't have nuclear weapons, and Maduro's an evil dictator, and our soldiers are good and their soldiers are bad. And I'm sorry, I'm not willing to live in a fantasy world.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the movie The Matrix, but I don't feel like moving in.
No, I wouldn't either, And if something is going to happen in Venezuela, my assessment is it's got to happen very quickly, and that assets have already been pre-positioned.
I would agree with that. Mike Pompeo already came on out and literally said at the same time they announced that the diplomats would be remaining in the U.S. consulate in Caracas, said that if any harm comes to them, we will take military action. So that if Guaido cannot take power just through force of personality, if the military are still on the side of Maduro, this coup is going to fail as effectively, as badly as the one against Hugo Chavez did some years ago.
Right, yeah.
So the U.S. may feel they're going to have to go in militarily to support Guaido.
Yeah.
And the only way they can sell that to the American people is to have that consulate in Caracas hit and our U.S. diplomats killed. And then they'll say, oh, what a horrible thing that, Maduro has done here.
Yeah. It all reeks. It all reeks of what I would call dartboard geopolitics. Throw it upon.
It is a crock. It is a crock here.
Yeah. I'd also like to go back to this situation of an American-Iranian TV anchor, Marizeh Hashemi, who has been released from FBI custody without charge.
Yes.
Okay, she's an anchor, and she was illegally detained for 10 days by the FBI and was never charged.
No, she was basically, she's an anchor at Press TV.
Yeah.
She'd come to the United States to visit a sick brother.
Yeah.
And also apparently to shoot a small documentary.
Yeah.
they just grabbed her without warning at the St. Louis airport, took her to Washington, D.C., threw her in the slammer. She went into court for 3 times. All they would say is she was held as a material witness, and then all of a sudden she's been let go.
Yeah.
Now, this woman has basically said that she thinks this was being done to send a message to Press TV and the Iranian government to basically cool it, or bad things will start happening to your people.
What do you mean, cool it? Just
mean
in terms
stop
of
reporting on
provocations?
all what Israel's doing. Stop reporting negative news about the United States.
Right, right. And, you know, if they were going to pick someone to intimidate with this lady, I've seen her pictures.
Yep.
They picked the
They
wrong
definitely picked the
gal.
wrong one. She's
Yeah.
come on out and said, I'm not going for it.
Yeah. And, you know, if intimidation was the design intent of the U.S. government, you know, epic fail.
Yep.
Yeah.
Epic fail.
You know,
Epic
I
fail.
think I'd like to get her on the show if that might be possible.
If it's entirely possible, I would love to. Of course, there's going to be a heck of a problem with the time zone issues.
No. She's in New York.
Oh, she's in New York.
I think she's in New York at least for a while.
All right.
But I think that the Americans need to hear her side of the story.
All right. Well, let's try and get her.
Yeah, I think it would be great.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry when I read this. Could we have a violin sound, dear? A violin?
Not immediately to
No,
hand. That's
okay.
in your office. Is all the
right.
music
Okay.
stuff. Okay.
The FBI is running out of money and they can't pay their informants.
Oh, those poor
Holy-
informants, they're going to
oh.
have to snitch for free. Well, this was tied in
gosh.
with the government shutdown,
Yeah,
of course,
yeah,
and now that the shutdown is over, at least
Yeah.
for the next 3 weeks,
Yep.
the informants are going to get their money
Yep.
to go on informing. And a reminder, the FBI has lots of informants all over this country.
Mhm.
They're on every college campus,
Yeah.
basically snooping on students who are expressing double plus ungood ideas. They had them
Yeah.
all over the colleges.
Mhm.
When I went to school back during Vietnam,
Mhm.
they were engaged in sabotage against the anti-war movement.
Yeah.
They were sabotaging the civil rights movement. They went after the early feminists. They went after the Native Americans. These are not nice people,
Yeah.
you know. And then they go home at night and go to bed and whack off to old James Bond movies. I'm a spy. I'm a
Yeah.
spy. I'm a spy.
I have a very dear friend, I don't hear from her much anymore, who was literally interviewed by the FBI at her home because of her being part of some peace activists
Yes.
and activism. And yeah, that winning through intimidation, that, you know, that gets a little old after a while.
Yeah, it does. I remember, you know, when I was actually in junior college and being a photographer, I was taking some pictures of an anti-Vietnam protest.
Mhm.
And then years later, when I went up for my security clearance,
Mhm.
they actually had a picture of me standing near that protest.
Okay.
And they said, "What is all this about?" And I said, "Well, I'm just taking pictures." And they took a look and they said, "Yeah, it doesn't look like you were really involved."
No,
But I mean, that's how out of control it is. All right, we're going to take a break for our last commercial. Back with the last segment of our program after these few words.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. As most of you know, my regular listeners, I offer energy cleaners for sale at my website. If you don't have a clue what I'm talking about, go to my website, thelibertyman.com, educate yourself about these marvelous healing devices. We focus on pain mitigation and getting a great night's sleep. Arthritis pain, joint pain, back pain, doesn't matter. Keep in mind, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. Energy cleaners, $285, shipping included to American zip codes. You can educate yourself all about the energy cleaner right there at my website, the patent application, the wonderful testimonials. Be sure and check out the factory-made fitted mattress pads to go with the energy cleaner. Now, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. I have a toll-free order line, or you can order it right at my website at thelibertyman.com. The toll-free order line is 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Thank you.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. Airoutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield Tactical Bipods. Airoutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to Airoutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
The First Amendment in the Bill of Rights limits the government's power by ensuring the freedom of speech and preserving the rights of the people. Every day that passes, our rights gradually slip away. It's time to take a stand and let the government know we're tired of losing our rights. LibertyStickers.com will allow you to express your rights and allow millions of people to see you stand up for what you believe in. LibertyStickers.com carries the largest selection of bumper stickers online, ranging from political to humorous, and is your #1 source for Ron Paul for President stickers. As always, you can find your favorite stickers that protest the war and the president. Don't see what you're looking for? Liberty Stickers will custom make stickers that will let you get your message across for all Americans to see. Go to LibertyStickers.com and see pre-made stickers that will get everyone talking. That's LibertyStickers.com or call 877-873-9626. Liberty Stickers, the world's most dangerous stickers.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Last segment of our show on this Powhana Friday here. And before I turn the microphone back over to Claire here, story coming out of 12160. Getting on back to this morning's arrest of Roger Stone. SWAT tactics, full tactical battle gear, assault rifles. These guys even had night vision glasses on in a fully lit neighborhood.
Yeah, come on, guys.
Okay, I mean, it was really over the top. Was being staged for the TV cameras, and of course, CNN was there, and everybody said, "How did CNN know to be there?" And the reporter in question was saying, "I just had this instinct," and CNN is basically now saying, well, it's the result of excellent reporting and following the clues here. Well, 12160 has just broken the story. The CNN reporter who was outside of Roger Stone's house this morning used to work for the FBI.
Perfect.
He was also an assistant to James Comey.
Oh, the plot
okay,
thickens.
so much for the
Yes,
good reporting and
Yeah.
good instincts here.
Yeah.
This thing was a setup right from the start.
Oh, absolutely.
Your next story.
Okay. Ireland has done something that I'm very happy about. They have advanced a bill which will prevent the sale of goods from Israel's illegal settlements in the occupied West Bank. Now, it still has to go through a couple of iterations.
Well, it's their lower house.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, like our House of Representatives, then it has to pass their upper house, and then they've got a couple more stages in there. But this bill has a lot of support.
Yes.
And of course, Israel's out there screaming that all the Irish are anti-Semites.
Ah.
You know.
I don't think so. Definitely not. And one thing I was thinking about when I was reading this article is that maybe the IDF will start treating Palestinians as human beings worthy of dignity and less draconian treatment that happens at present.
When pigs discover their aerodynamic.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
see,
one can
it's
hope.
it's an attitude problem. Okay. Unfortunately, it is wired into the Jewish religion, and let's be honest, other religions as well, that we who follow this imaginary playmate in the sky are superior, and the rest of you are not. And unfortunately, the Jewish faith does take it to a little bit more of an extreme, where people who are not Jewish are not even considered really human.
Yeah.
And I think that's illustrated by the fact that in the Jewish faith, the 10 Commandments only apply to other Jews.
It doesn't
and
apply to
everybody
people
else
outside
is fair
the faith,
game.
no.
as opposed to Christianity,
Mhm.
where it's presumed the Ten Commandments are a universal.
Mhm.
And I presume because Islam was based on early Judaic Christian writings that they
Mhm.
also have the Ten Commandments.
Yes.
And I don't know what their attitude about them
Mhm.
is at all. Anyway, we're coming up here on the end of the show. And what a crazy, crazy time we are living in. It just
Yes.
feels like everything is spinning out of control.
Upside down.
Venezuela, we're going to go into Venezuela. We can't even get out of Afghanistan or Syria yet.
Yes. Or Libya.
Or, yeah, we're
Yeah.
still stuck in Libya. We're still financing Yemen.
Mhm.
And anyway, there's the music, so it's time for us to get on out of here. Please stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Please donate to Republic Broadcasting Network. They really, really need your help right now. Nobody in independent media is getting rich right
No,
now. If they're
definitely
getting
not.
rich, they're no longer independent. Trust
Amen.
me on that one here.
Amen.
So donate to whatreallyhappened.com. Have a really good weekend. We'll see you Monday. Aloha, America.